Oh. I got one more minute yet. I just put it out.
I'm just letting people join in.
Yeah. You mean?
Yeah, they'll pop on as they hear.
Well, I mean,
Yes, I you today.
what happens if they?
What is it yours?
No, from utility. That's why.
All right. Oh, you better at 6.
Well, yeah, but that's when he's gonna.
Jenna, are you ready?
And so I am.
Welcome, everybody. Call this second meeting of the year, February 03, 2022, Planning Commission to order. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Who do we have here today? Roll call. Start out that.
Lee Bralish here. Boris Keeney here.
Jerry Burhorn Khalid is here.
Alan Angel is here.
Richard Fisher here.
All right. Full house today. Thank you all for coming. We have a relatively modest agenda in terms of size, but certainly not in terms of the value to the community. Starting with a public hearing. So having looked through the agenda, folks, does anybody have any conflicts they want to identify? Nothing? All right.
No.
Very good. Compliments to staff. We are on a roll here getting these minutes out between meetings, so thank you very much. I already identified one modest typo to Jenna. In writing, when my last name ends up with only one L, it confuses people to think that there's something angelic about me. That's not true. My last name has 2 L's. Let's make that change. The other thing that I noticed, Jenna, that I'd love to see when we go from draft to final approval is just to make sure that that the motions themselves are as specific as they are when they're made. I noticed here there's a little bit of shorthand with regard to the specifics of the motions.
I put it on the system and that's how it does it. Like I actually do the minutes while I'm in the system.
I want to make sure though that when people make motions that with regard to the specifics.
Yeah.
So if somebody lists 3 things that we're using as rationale to make a denial or a recommendation, we want to make sure those 3 things are listed.
Got it.
Well, while you're on that, Alan, I did send a brief email to Jenna about pretty much what you're talking about,
Okay.
with about 3 or 4
Okay.
updates to motions.
Yeah.
I hope you got it.
I did. As you can imagine, I'm one person.
Yeah, I understand
And
that.
I will have volunteers be helping me with
Totally
minutes at the end too. But
just
I know
wanted-
that's
I just wanted Alan to know I had.
I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
But did they get included into these minutes yet?
No.
So then you shouldn't approve.
Yeah, we're not going to approve, I don't think so
Right.
today. I want to make sure that I just want to get into a pattern here that because what we want to, and I do want to ask a question too, do some form of draft minutes get in front of the town council when they're having their meetings with regard to this
Regarding
agenda
the
that,
planning commission minutes?
yeah.
Or-
No.
No,
So
they don't have to.
walk me through the procedure then, when the town council is taking something up that we've either recommended approval or denial, what language do they have in front of them that indicates what our recommendation is?
What do they use for resource?
They probably should have the draft minutes would be
Yeah.
Sure.
what they should have in their package.
It's.
Otherwise, they have no
To me,
idea.
that's the most.
Yes,
that's-
yes, we should, and if it's something I've questioned, then I go find out what.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
just wanna
usually
make-
put what the planning commission recommended.
Right.
Right, but
Yeah.
when I'm, in the past, the pickle we've gotten ourselves into in the past as a town is that, what goes in front of the town council is a recommendation to approve or a recommendation to deny. What we want to get into the pattern of is why, specifically what were our rationale for either of those two things. I want to make sure.
What was the motion?
We're being very specific now in our motions. And it's important now that the town council know not just whether or not we're making a recommendation, yay or nay, but specifically why.
Yeah,
Because when they take that up, I want to make sure that's part of the discussion. So I think we've got the pattern now where we've got the meetings a couple weeks apart, right?
mhm.
The tricky part's going to be, we won't have final approved minutes for them, but if draft minutes just specific to the motions
Got it.
could be made as detailed as possible, so they have that detail. That's really important. I want to make sure what they're having their discussion about is germane to what we discussed. Okay?
Yeah,
Can that be, okay, perfect. Yeah, so in that, does anybody have anything with regard to these minutes they want to bring to Jenna's attention now, or do you want to? I know, of course, you've already made and sent an email, so that might be
It
sufficient.
was a little long to go into in a meeting, I thought, so,
Okay,
I mean, it wasn't long, it was just, there were several,
yeah.
several comments.
We'll get this. We're 90% of the way there already. The fact that we have draft minutes in front of us, meeting to meeting is a big win. I want to celebrate
I'm
that.
doing my best.
Yeah, it's huge.
She had done really well, there were just a couple things I added.
So we'll hold off until we get an update of the draft for next meeting to all that to say, great job. Okay, I don't want you to feel
No.
criticized
No,
here.
no, give it to me. Construction criticism, great.
She doesn't tell me that. It's like, go back in your office.
Well, and that last one, we had some pretty lengthy motions, so I'll make sure that'll happen periodically. For the town council to take up a discussion with regard to what we discussed, they need to know. We don't need them to sit down and look at the video and hear all the discussion, but the motion, that's why the motions are intended to be pretty specific now.
Got it.
Got it, awesome, yeah, that'll help.
Thank you for it.
This is somewhat relevant, came up this morning in the JUC, there was I think Forrest had to do some digging with regard to there was a question about whether or not a zone change had happened like 15 years ago, something like that.
2006?
2006 or 7, I forget.
Way back in minutes, going back, more than a decade, was one little line about approving. And we have to draw a lot of assumptions about what that approval meant because it wasn't worded, it wasn't specific.
All they
Trying to
said
get
was,
ourselves out of those pickles so that these are legal documents that, when we're all dead and gone, somebody's gonna want to look back at these and we're gonna want to give them as much detail as we
If
can.
you had time to look at the meetings past the one that you're talking about, you got a little bit more specific as to which one, but.
It's just, it's not fair to those of us that are doing it now to not have the details.
Right.
So we're trying to do a favor to the next.
If you're trying to make a map, for example, update a map, you don't have time to go look at.
Yeah.
it's not fair to the applicants, to the
And it's
property
not.
owners,
Right.
that they say, I got my zone changed and our map says no. And then when we go back, like in this one, all it said was, Mr. Webb got his zone change approved.
And we don't even.
No property,
We're giving him the
no
benefit of the
nothing.
doubt that that's what he meant. We could have said, well, it doesn't say here specifically, so
Right.
no. I
Right,
mean, that's,
Well, that's
we don't
basically,
want to, we just don't want to get into that.
yeah, that's basically what we've done.
Yeah.
but
Okay. Good. So again,
I will work
thank
on
you.
getting
Great job.
the other minutes next week, or next meeting.
Okay, so we're gonna just table the vote on the approval of those minutes till next one. So hopefully we'll have 2 sets in the next meeting to approve. Great. Okay, do you want to do, so we do these hearings all as one? Do you have these?
Looks like the one here.
Well, the way it's numbered here. We doing it, was the idea here to do a hearing on all three of these, or 4, 5, 6 of these,
Yeah,
all at once?
So I grouped them together, so we're working with Title 10, Section 28. So there's all those right there.
Okay,
And then we go into Title 11, and then there's different changes there, but I would suggest that we make motions on each of them.
okay.
So it's,
Just to make sure we're not running afoul of what we're supposed to do here, I'm
Right.
gonna do an open and close a hearing on each of these separate, just so we're documenting that we had a hearing about each of these changes. So,
I do have someone on Zoom that would like to make a public comment, so
Okay,
let us
great.
know when we get there.
before I open the hearing itself, Frank, do you want to just give us a quick overview of the update for Title 10?
okay?
Just, it might answer some questions that we're gonna get during the public hearing here.
Okay. So Title 10, I-
Excuse me, can you identify who you are, so for those of us that
Sure.
don't know you?
my name is Frank Linhart,
Thank you.
and I am carrying the fine title of Planning and Zoning Manager for the town of Apple Valley.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if I can do a quick one because there's a lot of details in each of them. But this is quite a bit of housekeeping. It will help us. Right now, we have ordinances that says you got to do ABC, and then somewhere else we says DEF. And it makes it really difficult for me when I'm dealing with a developer that wants to do ABC, but our ordinances really say DEF. So it makes it, so most of this stuff is streamlined, fixing problems. And other stuff is like we're taking out a commercial zone that was added in. And I'll explain the details of that one. But most of the rest of it is we're taking out a section that deals with accessory dwellings. Because immediately following that section, we have one that deals with casitas. And they're doing the exact same thing. So we're just redundant, and rather than have people pick and choose over it, then we just eliminate the one and then make a few little changes to the other one to make it do what we need it to. We're adding some restrictions to completion of homes. We have a unique problem here in our little town is that some people take a long time to finish their homes. And that could be detrimental to your neighbors. So building code actually only gives you a year to build a house. Then you can get an extension. But we're specifically adding language to the effect that you got to finish the outside of your house before you get preliminary or get occupancy. So it's things to just make things better in Apple Valley. We're dealing with stormwater mitigation. We have some serious issues with stormwater that goes into neighbors' yards and does a lot of destruction. So it's a Band-Aid. And then we are adding a excavation and grading and grubbing ordinance to prevent like we've had people that just climbs up and start digging and scratching and destroying hillsides, or they buy 20 acres and then they just go in and remove every shrub, every tree, and it's just a big dust bowl. The ordinance that is one we copied from Virgin. It's pretty draconian. So my suggestion is that we adopt this one for right now. So we have something on the books, and then we work on a much simpler version of it in the future when we have more time.
Sounds good. Okay.
So that's,
So the idea here basically is we're adding a little more clarity with regard to some of these, and we're eliminating confusion when there might be redundant ordinances that kind of conflict with each other.
conflict, correct.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks. So I'd like to open the public hearing now for item number 2, which is the update to Title 10. Frank just kind of gave an overview. I'm not going to read through all of these. You guys have the information in front of you, I would assume. Jenna, you had one.
We just asked him to unmute. Jason
Okay.
Graham, if you can hear, can you unmute yourself so you can?
Yes, I should. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna comment specifically about item 9, but if I can address that here, that's fine, or I can wait till later.
You're talking about item 9 on our agenda?
Yes.
Yeah, let's hold up on that. We're still at the beginning of the agenda. Thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody have any comments they'd like to make specific to the update to Title 10? Yeah,
Up to the podium or here?
we can hear you. Just say your name and.
Here, Rich Cobb, 2222 East Branch Road. I would like to add when it comes to 10, letter F and G, where it says time restrictions on completion of exterior construction, building permit expiration renewal. This is what I kind of have in my head, because I got a major problem in front of me. And it's not only in front of me, it's been other projects, people complaining about road crews coming in and just taking over the spot and thinking that they own a particular area because they have to work there, screw everybody else, okay? So I want time restrictions on completion of development, roads and infrastructure projects with builders and or property owners being subject to penalties and monetary fines for missing said timeline. Such deadline will help to avoid property rights violations of current residents living in such area and mitigate hardship and inconvenience of said persons. Examples: creating hazardous road conditions, blocking emergency exits and egresses, and making unpassable roads. It's just not acceptable. I mean, it's almost like they use the project as a fill-in job, and the people around there just have to deal with it. Oh, well, I'm working over here, so
Gotcha.
screw you.
Okay,
That's just a bad way to do business, and it really is not fair to the people dealing with the problem. Thank you.
gotcha. Thank you so much. Margaret?
Margaret Ostrowski, 124 Westfield Opinion. On your agenda, you don't have the grading and grubbing of vacant lots and excavation and grading permit required. It would be under the section 28, Title 10, section 28.
I have J on, well, I don't know.
I have it from this morning. And it's not on this agenda.
Oh,
I think she's right.
interesting.
Oh, we have,
You stop at A, the stormwater
Right, yeah.
mitigation thing, and then there's two more, there should be two more items which aren't on here.
310 and
H
320.
and J.
I and J.
Oh, yeah, but the number.
Yeah, 310 and 320.
Yeah.
So my, and this is just my opinion, when you do a public hearing, I don't think we're required to itemize every item that goes on in, if you want to change Title 1028. You make a public notice that you're gonna deal with changes in Title 1028. So if there is something else we need or want to add, I think we're well within the boundaries of public notice.
I appreciate that though, Margaret. We'll try to be as detailed as we can. The official
Oh, yeah, I
agenda is
understand.
update to Title 10. What's past that is general information. We'll try to be more accurate.
Yeah, I just saw it,
Appreciate
so
that.
I-
I think she's right, because in the past, when we've done these changes, and we're gonna make a line item right here, because we put it out and it's a public hearing, it has to be worded the way we want it to be. If it's not, we have to change it now and bring it back to the table and bring it back the next time.
No, what Frank just said was correct. We're having a hearing on an update to Title 10.
But if it's not listed, and we've made a public notice on the items that are listed, we have to add it and come back to it later. We can fix all the ones we have here. We can't add them if they're not here, because we gave the public the notice. These are the line items we are going to put in here.
It's in the-
I think you
it's in the
misunderstood
agenda package, though.
my
1028.
description.
It is in the agenda package, though, it's just not on here.
Right, the agenda itself is item number 2, update Title 10. That's what we're having a hearing on. The rest of the information is for your information purposes. That's it's in the packet.
Right.
We're not required to have every detail itemized out in the agenda itself. But the packet has the information.
But I
But we'll
think
try to do better in this plan.
the packet, I think, does have those.
It
line
does,
items.
yeah. And it's germane to update Title 10, so I think we're okay.
Just tell me what we've done in the past, that's what I get part of when we've done in the past, so.
Right, and what we,
Wasn't right, wasn't right. If it's right, it's not
Pull up
right.
the agenda.
so I just want to make sure, all right. Thank you, Margaret. Anybody else have any comments? Anybody else have any comments? If nobody does, we're gonna come back to you. Yeah,
Oh, I might have.
When you're talking about,
could you just state your name real quick?
Anthony Barlow, 1650 South, 2200 East.
We're gonna assume you're from Apple Valley if you're here, you know.
On this 10/28/260, you're talking about the meeting. Because like Frank said, it's redundant with the casitas. I would imagine that's intended for much larger lots. And
Are you on 11 or are you still on 10?
10.28.260.
Oh,
Yeah, that one getting line item and line out.
Yeah.
But it seemed like that it would, if you left that in, it would, and put a lot size on it, that it would actually put less lots or less buildings on the lots, because it would push people to split the lot smaller, because they can put a house and a casino on a 5 acre.
We'll go through it, and I'll be happy to explain when we.
Yeah, so we have thank you, appreciate that. Margaret, go ahead.
I was just wondering what your limitations on the steel building homes was gonna be, or are. The limitation on steel building as a home, what?
It should be in there. In the
We're not
package.
allowing them, right?
Yeah, what we're basically saying is that it's gotta be a residential. Try to define it so you can't take an industrial steel building and call it a home.
you have a square building. Last time we talked about this, it was, you have to, if you're gonna try to do a shop house or a house or a barn medium, you gotta bring the plans in, and they actually gotta come before the planning commission, and we have to see that that's dolled up. You got porches, you got stone, you got this, so it looks like a house, not just a shop. Right?
Can't put up a full-
That's the intent. And we can discuss the details when we get in there, but that's the intent, is to make sure that we don't end up with industrial building in residential areas
Right.
Yeah.
where they call it a home.
And that's in every residential zone?
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
what I said.
It's, yeah, it's if it's a
Townwide.
dwelling, it can't be an industrial building.
Right.
Full stop. Yep. Okay, anybody online, Jenna, have any?
No.
No? All right,
Ready to go?
let's close that hearing.
Forced away here.
Since people probably want to make their comments, let's go through the hearings and then we'll come back and do the discussions. Are you okay with that? So you get,
So you want me to present it,
present
it all,
to present number
and
11
then hear if anybody has any comments on it?
Yeah.
And then do discussion
on
afterwards.
title 11. Yeah,
However, title 10 or 11?
11 now.
So just do the summary of 11 as well?
We'll come back with you. We'll have the discussion about each of these.
So you want me to give you a summary of 11?
Of 11, yep. Then we'll see
Okay.
the hearing about it. Yep.
Title 11, we update 1108/040. That's one that was changed a few years ago where the mayor unilaterally can subdivide up to 10 lots. And we're changing that back so it matches everybody else in the county, every other city, that the mayor can only do lot splits, one lot split. And then from there, everything else needs to go in front of planning commission and town council in order to subdivide.
Amen.
We are on 1108, we are adding some street standards to ours. Strangely enough, we are the rural city in comparison to Hurricane, but we have no rural road standards. So we're adding some of those, gives us more possibilities. Our current standards in our design standards says that every subdivision are required to have curb and gutter and sidewalk. By adding some of these new street standards in on the rural roads, it changes that. But so anyway, so I want to change, make sure that our design standards matches what we say in Title 11. And right now they don't. But, and just as information, do any of you have that handout I gave this morning?
I do.
Yeah,
We borrow it.
Is that it?
no, the one with all the numbers.
Oh, yeah, that's on the back here.
And I kind of want to just bring that up to everybody's attention because, no, this one.
Yeah.
Because we're so used to rural Apple Valley and that's what we want. We love what we have. But, and then I get criticism when I want to bring it up to normal subdivision standards. Reality is, and let me just read you some of these numbers here. In the last 2 years, we have 1,260 lots that is either under construction, have already received preliminary plat approval, or are in the process of getting preliminary plat approval. And that's 3 times the size of Apple Valley.
We don't even have 400 right now.
We don't even have 400.
Yeah.
So, and then when you go, for example, to Cedar Point, the kids are walking in the street, people walking their dogs in the street. But when you cram in like one subdivision, it's 268 homes in one subdivision, then it's like people deserve the safety of their kids walking on the sidewalk and walking their animals on the sidewalk and not playing in the streets. So if we were what we are now, then I agree, let's keep it with all that without it. But
Do we not currently say right now, if you're half acre or less than 1 acre, actually, that you have to do curb gutter and sidewalk? Isn't that what it says right now?
right now, it depends on where you look. Right now in our ordinance, it says sidewalk everywhere in our design standards. There are no exceptions. But if you look on title, no exceptions. But if you look on title 11, yeah, then it talks about that you can have it here or not there. So we have the conflict of it. So my suggestion is we just try to streamline it.
That's the change.
And then that's the change we're gonna make.
Gotcha.
And then also, just so you know, that's just 1,260 lots that has already in the process or have been approved. In addition to that, we have another 1,648 lots that are in the process of trying to get zone change for this lots. In addition to another 1,065 cabins and or modular homes or, so we're just not modular homes, but anyway, so that's the reason why we need to step up. So when they come in and develop, they develop it so it's a safe place for everybody to be. Thank you.
Gotcha, thank
I
you.
appreciate that. It's not that we wanna, because we also
We're not
know,
trying to retroactively say,
right,
hey, put curb and gutter out front of your house. That's not what we're doing.
and then, we want to add some language to our subdividing agreement and also add one for when somebody asks for a zone change or a preliminary plat. Right now, there is a subdivider agreement that they have to sign that says that if we have to sue them to make them complete their subdivision as they've agreed to, they pay for the legal fees. But in every real estate transaction in the state of Utah, there's a clause that says if anybody get involved in a lawsuit, then loser pays the legal fees. And the reason for this is in the state of Utah, the law is simply, no matter who sues each other, if you don't have a contract that says that, then somebody can just bully you. And like in our little town, they can say, hey, I'm going to sue you until I get what I want because you only got a $25,000 legal fee pot to pull from. And then they can bully. And no matter if they lose, it'll sink our ship.
Right.
So my suggestion is that we add the same paragraph that if there's a lawsuit, loser pays, because it make it a lot less likely for people to sue each other because you got to pay both sides. So, and of course, this needs to be approved by attorney, and I haven't run that by him. Then the other is, I want to make a few changes to our master road plan. Some of them have already been made over on Wildcat and on the Bubbling Wells area, and then I'll explain to that what the reason for that. And then add a summary of our town development and building policies. Basically, we've had it before. We added it 4 years ago, and then it got pulled out. And some of the things in there is that you won't be able to develop a bunch of subdivisions off Highway 9 unless there's left turn, right turn lanes for safety of everybody involved. The same thing is over here, for example, until there is a second entrance out of Apple Valley in and out. We only have one right now. Then you can't add any more subdivisions. And of course, we have somebody on the books right now that are trying to do a subdivision that will fix that problem. But until that, we need to really stop and just keep adding and adding because it does not meet our fire code whatsoever.
As far as Highway 9 is concerned, when we met with UDOT, UDOT only wants to see us have a maximum of 6 permanent
Correct.
access points to Highway 9.
Right.
That's the kind of thing we want to.
So
And that's what we want to do.
Make sure that we put that with our stuff.
Right.
And make sure that we're coordinating that.
Yep.
So every Joe Blow doesn't just put an entrance on Highway 9.
Because that's what the-
59, excuse me.
That's what they want to do. Everybody wants to put it right where their property is. But it really needs to go where it works on both sides of the highway and where it works for the town and for UDOT. So it's way in this end of town and then one over here, a little closer to town and one in town and then one or two over there. So we get a master plan that says this is where it goes. And if you want to develop, then like Main Street is now open for that because we have left turn, right turn lanes.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and then just the street cross section at those, which I talked about earlier.
Okay, thank you, Frank. All right, let's open the public hearing on item number 3, the update to Title 11. Are there any?
I have a comment.
Alright.
Libby Wells says, you guys are comparing Apple Valley to Hurricane. Hurricane has smaller lots.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask Jason Graham to unmute himself. He has a comment that he would like.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, thank you. So before I comment specifically on the road access in Bubbling Wells, I just want to point out that the people of Apple Valley have spoken that they did not elect Frank Linhart. He didn't get much support in that because we don't want this kind of access. We don't want these kind of things that he's pushing through here. And if you're taking word for word everything that he's pushing to you in that, and you give him that authority, you're usurping the will of the people. Okay, the
All right,
previous
Jason, thank you.
administration sent a flyer out and sent a survey out on all of these things, and overwhelming the people of Apple Valley didn't want this stuff. They don't want block walls and curb gutter and sidewalk and all that stuff. That was already asked of the people. And so if you're going to then disregard that, I don't know what you expect the response to be. Now, specifically regarding the road access issue, I just want to point out that Frank has been wrong on many, many things. One of the things that he's obviously wrong on is on the septic issue, and this is just to demonstrate that he's wrong on something. His take is that we can't put septics on anything less than 7 acres. The state health board regulates septic systems, and they allow us to put septic systems in lots that are ½ acre down, with the caveat that we are on a public water system. So since all of Apple Valley is on a public water system and our water comes from elsewhere, wherever the well is, it's safe, according to the engineers and the scientists that work for the county, to put a septic system on a ½ acre lot. Frank Linhart doesn't recognize that. That's a classic point, and he's fed this information to Mason Walters and convinced her of this, and I'm sure it has convinced you guys of that that's the case. However, he is flat wrong. He is flat wrong about this road access situation off of Bubbling Well. The state fire code says 2 things about this access. 1, 30 homes or more in a developed area needs to have a secondary access. we don't have 30 homes in that area. We have 18, the last I could count. If we subdivided everything, we might get to 30, but I'm not certain of that. But for 2, we already have a secondary access. 2000 South runs over to Canyon Street. UDOT already approved that. And so the fire code says that your secondary access has to be at least a third the distance of the development away from the primary access. That entire width of everything that's built in that Bubbling Well area is 3,000 feet. And so that road from Canyon Street that UDOT already approved to Bubbling Well, which UDOT already approved, is 2,000 feet. So it meets the requirement for the secondary access. It's already there, and it doesn't have to take private citizens' property to do it. It might need some widening and some improving. The way that he has the secondary access drawn for Bubbling Wells takes property away from everybody up and down that line, including 4/10 of an acre away from me, when it doesn't have to be there. Frank will try to convince you that it needs to be there. Fire code does not require it. UDOT does not require it.
Thank you, Jason. Okay, anybody else have any comments? Rich?
Well, I'll let this young lady share her hand up.
Oh, okay, go for it.
So my name is Linda, and
Hi, Linda.
I'm just, so if we're going to do what the general plan is, I thought the general plan meant that 1 acres, and now I'm hearing half acres. Isn't the general plan of the town to have 1 acre and above?
I'm trying to, are you addressing
Which
changes
line
to
I-
the Title 11?
Yes,
What-
and
what
basically
specifically
about the sidewalks, because we have, and like Frank said, that there's going to need these sidewalks, definitely where there's 230 homes or whatever. But I thought our general plan says that we're going to try and do the 1 acre lots.
Gotcha, okay,
And
thank
if
you.
that's the case, why are we needing all these sidewalks?
Appreciate it, thank you.
Okay.
Rich?
Yeah, Rich Cop, 2222 East Branch Road. On point to Jason Graham, it seems like he's only worried about himself because he's closer to the, towards the road. The people back towards the mountain, they don't have a second egress out off of Canyon. God forbid there's an emergency back there. They're screwed, but he seems not to care about that. He's caring about himself. And I totally disagree when he talks about Frank, how he's not qualified to put his voice out there and kind of be the voice of Apple Valley of how things should be done.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments on agenda item number 3, update to Title 11? No, hearing none, that hearing is closed. Thank you all for your comments. The next hearing we'll have here is amendments made to the master road plan for Bubbling Wells, Wildcat Road, and but putting a master roadmap online. Is there anything other than just what, I mean, if this describes it, then we can.
Yeah, there's really not much to ask other than the details of the why and how and where locations and stuff. So
Okay, so let's open the public hearing on that one. Anybody have any comments on that?
that was the one Jason commented on.
That's what I was gonna say.
Rich?
I just have one comment. It would be helpful that if you could mark like the streets on the plan so people can kind of have their bearings as exactly where they're going.
Sure, we'll try to make it, yeah.
That would help.
It'd help us too, quite
Okay.
frankly, yeah.
All right. Yep.
All right. Yeah,
Maybe Frank can tell us where that Bubbling Wells Road is planned to come in.
Yeah, when we get to the details, it's basically, it goes along it's the only place where you can go from our road, where you're on, and go all the way down to the highway is along your property line right there on the one side, on your right side.
On the west side?
On the west side. And it goes all the way down, because if we go further in, then we hit the big wash where we need $1 million bridge, and if we go the other way, we hit wilderness area. So we don't have a choice. on our side of the road too.
And the point is, we need to make sure that these access roads serve both sides of the highway as well.
How wide is that road supposed to be?
If you collect the roads, they're usually, 66, I think is, but you have we have an easement automatically for the 50 feet.
Yeah.
So it's like and besides that, nobody's taking anything. All we're doing is marking a spot on the map. So if somebody comes in and wants to develop, then we've already marked the spot where that intersection will be. But we're not putting anything in there. We're not doing anything to it other than marking a spot on the map. And that simply gives us priority as a town over somebody else comes and want to put it somewhere else. We've already marked our spot.
Well, it also gives you the ability to work with the DOT and establish where those are gonna.
Where those are gonna be.
They're only gonna give you 6 of them.
Right, correct.
Okay, close the hearing on that one. And since we already discussed the other two in your thing, I'm gonna do the hearing for 5 and 6 at the same time. Let's open that. Does anybody have any comments they want to make about adding a summary of town development policies for developers to know how to deal with this? Or
should we make this kind of a checklist for the developers to turn in?
well, it's more of a,
It's really just a summary because fire code already says you can't have any more than X homes within, but we far exceeds all that already, for example, on the one. And safety, like Richard said, you can only have so many left turn, right turn lanes. So this just marks our spots on it, but I'm just kind of bringing in a policy so I can give a handout to somebody who wants to develop. Remember, this is what we're dealing with. So we don't have to wait for the traffic study to come in, and we don't have to wait for the fire chief to comment on somebody's development. We can give them a heads up.
Yeah.
It's really all it is.
One of the things he's talking about, for instance, we had Mr. Holm wanted to put a road on Dead Man's Corner. He wanted to have an access right there, but eventually he wants to put up all those houses that he wants to put in. It's a really bad area. We've had a lot of people die there. We got UDOT involved, UDOT looked at it, and his current access is still in a bad area, and his new access is in just a bad area. So but he has other land, and the point is there shouldn't be any access on that corner. We should make our main access somewhere else to make it safe for everybody.
Where's Dead Man's Corner?
Right by Gold's Wash Road. When you go through the mountain, all of a sudden it opens up to the center.
Oh,
That's a blind area. You can't see because of the mountain, because of everything right there. So that was one of the things
I
that
just
we.
closed my eyes. And
okay, this is the public hearing, guys, so
Sorry.
we'll get our chance.
Sorry, that was one of the things that we had to
Go
do,
ahead.
so.
I was gonna comment on that, on the development policy we're talking about. I think it's a great idea to have some kind of a flow chart. So that if somebody has an idea and they want to do something, they know where to start.
Yeah.
In the past, it's been real difficult. You talk to the mayor and you don't realize you're gonna be talking to 15 other people. But
Right.
if you could look at that and see, you could kind of work your way through that. It'd be a lot better.
Are you volunteering?
Bring a flow chart.
I happen, that's what I know.
Make him sign with blood. We know he's in for the long haul. I think it's
Come for
great.
you, Mr. Marlowe.
Canab has a wonderful flow chart.
Oh.
For a lot of different things. And I'm not volunteering.
No, I'm just sorry.
I'm just-
Does anybody have any comments to make about item number 6?
Well, I would just add, a lot of reference has been made to changing some of the things to match Hurricane's plans. And I actually went to Hurricane's plans, and they're very easy to follow, easy to read. Here, for example, is the Hurricane building permit application. Again, although this is for an applicant such as myself, who I've tried to work through all of the channels here, only to find a lot of very different information depending on what ordinance you were looking at,
For
and
sure.
what references and what iteration of that reference that led you to yet another
For
reference.
sure, yeah,
And
that's the agenda tonight.
This is a single page. This outlines everything that I will be required if I want to build in Hurricane. And something like this, I don't see why Apple Valley could not do this. They also have the building department, the site plan requirements, the temporary power application, all of the things that you need. And I think that's what Frank is trying to describe, is something very simple, easy to understand. Here's an impact fee form. It says you fill this out. Once you pay your fee, then you're in the system. Go to the next step, so forth and so on.
Yeah.
And
I think
had
that's
this
good
been
for clarity
available-
that, yeah, oh,
Yeah.
and what's your name?
I'm sorry, I'm Tricia Anderson. I bought a lot 2 years ago across the street here, and I'd like to be able to build on it, but I've walked into a hornet's nest.
Welcome.
Given all of the changes that are occurring at the time that I'm trying to build.
Well, we're glad you're here, so
So
thank
thank
you.
you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments.
I'm not
Anybody
trying
else,
to
real quick
be
here?
difficult, but I've spent an extraordinary number of hours trying to develop all of this. And I'm happy for the planning committee to take a look at all of this. I have a copy. I also saved it as all the PDF. So if
Thank
I
you.
can give this to Jenna, I'll be happy to do that.
We appreciate you. Thank you very much. Okay, this is the end of that public hearing, and that's the end of the public portion of this meeting. So what that means is, we
You
talked,
didn't ask if there were any more comments.
I did, I asked you. Were there
Can we
more?
go back to
Close it.
number 4 because you didn't ask if there were additional comments? Because I have a problem
Do you
with
have a
number
comment?
4.
Let's
I'd
go
like,
ahead and have you make your comment then. How about that?
okay, I'd like to know what engineer
What is
designed
your
the
name?
roads.
Who are you?
This is Tish Lisenby. I'm at a friend's house. I'm on his
Well, hey,
line.
Tish.
Hi there. I'd like to know what engineer designed the roads.
What engineer?
Well, what roads are
designed-
you talking about?
I'm talking about our master plan. What engineer designed the master plan that we're currently using? And what engineer designed the road changes to the amendment of the road plan?
Does it say on that map who designed that?
I don't think she's talking about that one.
No, I'm talking about number 4, the amendment to the master road plan. I'm asking what engineer designed these changes?
Nobody.
So these are not
They're not-
engineered plans. These are
No,
just, this
these
is,
are suggestions that
So
we're
this
making.
is somebody, this is an
And then,
amendment. This
yeah,
isn't
we're
a,
making suggestions for the changes. And then the engineer will put it on our map if the town council approves.
right.
are you going to have an
This is the
engineer look at it at all?
We will, yes, Tish. If, assuming it gets past
He's
this
gonna
phase.
pass it and then have an engineer look at it.
Well, we're actually in the process of getting a whole new general plan, and along with that is a new master road plan.
Right,
so-
Sunrise was contracted months ago to do that, yes.
Correct.
Right. We're in underway with that. Yep. This is the beginning
And
part of
so-
that process.
And so has Sunrise been consulted at all on these projected changes?
No,
No, but they will be. And if it's not, if it's
After it's
not
passed?
feasible, if it's an engineering impossibility, it won't happen. Promise.
Wow.
We're not gonna
Talk
put a
about the
road,
chicken and the egg. All right.
all right, thank you for your comment. Anybody else have any comments? Anybody else?
Hold on. Question, great point, okay.
All right, once
Jason just
again,
says he seconds that question, great point, so.
close that hearing twice. All right. You scratched it first time I closed that, Jenna. All right, now, this is the non-public part of the meeting. So we have a bunch of updates. Frank, you want us to?
let me just go through them one by one,
Yep.
and then I'll explain what my thoughts are. And I don't believe that I'm infallible, contrary to Jason's comment. So I'm more than willing to listen to whatever. I'm just making suggestions.
Yeah, I hope it, I mean, I don't know, does any of you up here assume that everything Frank says is gospel?
No, I know Frank better than
I
that.
certainly don't.
We all know better.
Yeah, I don't know where that impression you got.
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate that. And there it's not either. Okay, so 10-10-060, single family residence. On that page, it says district is that chart I'm referring to. And under size, this is the area for the lots.
Section D, right?
Section D.
Okay.
And all our other zones, they have minimum in front of it. So I'm just simply correcting that in this one, so they know that 10,000 is the minimum size. So I'll eliminate those arguments with developers.
Got into an argument with some town officials about a year and a half ago. Minimum really needs to be added to all of those requirements, I think. They did not believe the 80 feet width, for example, was a minimum.
Okay.
Maybe it isn't. But
No,
Square foot.
there is exceptions to it, but
it'd be a flag lot or something.
yeah, so,
It could be a triangle lot and a cul-de-sac.
right. See, then the minimum doesn't start on the curve, the minimum start at the setback lines. So it varies a little bit on that, but on a lot size, minimum lot size, it's just cut and paste. And the reason for it is that if we don't, every one of those that I've gone through here that are trying to get approvals, they're all pushing the limits of cramming it in there. And there is different ways. You can also say,
Come up with an average.
yeah, that's another option that some people do, or some cities do. They say average lot size. Then you can have a 12,000 and an 8,000. But we have it in all ours is currently just say minimum. So, except here.
Right.
So I'm just suggesting we add minimum to that.
Can we add setbacks where it says yards and feet? Some people get confused by that. believe me.
Yards and, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Setbacks and feet.
Yeah, setbacks in feet. Sure, that's a good suggestion. Okay.
Be the official keeper of any change we make to the things that you brought in front of us. Jenna, are you able to do that as we go here? Yeah,
She's already people, yeah.
okay,
Yeah, since you have it. Oh.
sounds good.
We'll fix it later. Then don't feel bad. No reason.
And then your suggestion is that we just line out 1028 through 60
Entirely.
and have that covered under,
That's good. And do it again,
see this
So you're going to.
make a house?
accessory dwelling.
Accessory dwelling, yeah. Yeah, so right now we have one that's accessory dwellings and which is clearly intended to be a building that's separate from your house. But then when you go down and look at the next, I don't know if I copy that. Yeah, guest house or casita. Now we're talking about the exact same thing. So the only thing I want to eliminate, I suggest we eliminate the accessory building and add one word to 102870. It says a detached guest house.
Okay.
So we add detached. So now we're talking about a detached structure. Because anytime you want to do a casita and it's attached to your house, it's just part of your house.
In addition, yeah.
It's not you can do that. That's not an issue. So just add detached to that one and then wipe away the other one entirely.
I thought one of the reasons to have this 260 was for the employee. Can you do the employee in the other one?
But now just in my opinion, when you're talking about employees, that's just someone else. It's not a single family, no more. Now it's some stranger living there. If we want to go into, say, in a farm setting, for example, on large farm lots, then we could add something like that in there where they could have a farmhand that lives there, a bunkhouse or something.
And all I'm saying,
Right.
maybe that's why it was in there.
Maybe. But anyway, they're just,
Do we need to even call them guest house or casitas? Why not swap the language and just call them all accessory dwellings? Because
yeah, I'm whichever.
Then we're not again getting in an argument with somebody whether or not they're building a casita or a guest house
But
or an employee bunkhouse. It's an accessory dwelling. It's a separate place you're intended to have people live.
but
It's not your main house.
yeah, whatever you suggest there, I think that'd be fine. But I would keep the one that's the casita one. And just change that language, change that to be
Accessory dwelling.
guest house or accessory dwelling. Or accessory dwelling, period.
But there again, it says just for family members and visiting guests, so.
Right.
You haven't.
And the purpose behind that is that otherwise you're creating a duplex. You're creating a two lot. That's the whole purpose behind restricting it, because otherwise you just do duplexes everywhere. People build another home on their lot.
We have it very clear that you can only have one.
Main, right.
Yeah.
But if grandma and grandpa comes and live with you, or even if you need a caretaker, we have provisions for that in our ordinance. That you can have somebody live in that guest house and take care of you. But we're just kind of redundant here is my point.
Right.
Okay, so what I'm doing is if we're changing it to accessory dwelling, I'm gonna go down through here and get rid of guest house or casita and put in accessory dwelling throughout the.
Detached accessory dwelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise it's
Yeah.
going back to what we started.
Okay.
So that was. Delete this.
And you do have to have a main dwelling before you can do all
Yes.
Yes.
this. We're not taking it away, right? No.
Should we put in a special wording for employee housing? Or no, actually, I just answered my own question.
Yeah.
If somebody.
Now you got a duplex.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to do something like that, we can talk.
Okay. I wonder if your list is different.
And we're on page 22, I think, where the next.
So we jumped down the list a little bit.
Yeah, we did. We skipped over. That's what I was wondering. Like, how can we?
Yeah, I was like, okay, but I'm okay with that. If we go back to 10-10-30 would be my, next one. And this is one thing I found. For some reason, in the last year and a half, the town went and added a new zone that was called tourist commercial.
I asked about that same thing.
And I'm like, what in the heck is this?
Yeah, and so I just want to clarify, it got away from us. Our intent was to collect the tourist commercial activities that are a growth opportunity for the town.
Right.
In one area of town. That was our intent.
I understand.
You know, got a rabbit with a elephant rifle or something.
Well, I think that there's some things that got snuck in there that didn't quite get discussed, and because what really happened is that we took motels and hotels, transient housing out of commercial, C1 and C2, which is highway commercial, and plopped it into this new zone. And then we had, you can have a tourist shop, you can have a rock shop or a bike shop in this tourist zone, but
I wasn't in that one.
and I was like, okay, what the heck's up with that? And then I found what I think is the reason for it. They added cabins into the tourist commercial.
Well,
Yeah,
we
that
already had
wasn't
it
the-
on
that wasn't the
council.
intent. It was.
No, but it may not have been your intent, but what happened in real life here is that now we have an uncontrolled, no limitation, no restrictions, place to put cabins. And we have a cabin ordinance. So that's why I couldn't see any need for it. But the way it is now in a special tourist commercial, now we have one that has no restrictions on it. And the whole purpose of it says, if you're gonna do a cabin subdivision, then you need to make sure you have the right amount of toilets, you have the right access, you have all these things that needs to go to make it a place that's attractive to and functional.
So we're currently talking about just taking that zone out and going back to the
Get rid of
ones we
that
already
zone.
have.
Correct. Just simply eliminate tourist commercial out of our general plan and out of our zoning.
But however, when the general plan is being updated, it is in our interest, I think, as a town to collect, based on our long-term plan, tourist commercial in an area.
But
rather than having.
there's no such thing as tourist commercial. See, C1 is your highway commercial.
I understand, but what I'm
So-
saying, the things that, our intent again was to try to keep tourist-related activities
Sure.
from being.
And you do
Yeah.
that with your zoning. You simply say, when somebody comes in, like right now, they made this 500 feet, a mile in each direction on Main Street was tourist commercial. And it needs to go back to just commercial. And then that way, when somebody comes in, then you can do a development agreement where you can say, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. But it's under commercial, like it is. I went through Hurricane's ordinance again, and I know I keep references Hurricane simply because I work in that one a lot, and I know it. And there's just, they're highway commercial and there's C2, that's where you do this kind of stuff. That's where all those things that you put into commercial, highway commercial motels or tourist related, it's all in C1 or C2. So I simply recommend just wipe it away.
When we redo the general map, we might want to, instead of just making this big commercial area, we might want to actually designate, here's a C1 commercial, here's a C2. Can you do that? or-
Yeah, you could. Well, not on your general plan. Your general plan is a generic. So it will say,
Guidelines.
yeah, it's a guideline number one, but general plan is generic. So it'll just say commercial.
But why couldn't you say?
No, but that's what we.
And the reason why, let me
I'm not
explain you.
saying zoning.
No, but that's what you do. See, that's the problem we have with that map right there. That is a general plan that is intended to say, for example, low density residential over here, medium density, high density, but it doesn't define, whether that is half acre, quarter acre, 1 acre. But under each of the categories, it defines that a low density is 5 to 10 or larger. And a high density is quarter acre or less than that, or so it lumps them together, and that's what a general plan does. It doesn't go into micromanaging neighborhoods by zone. That's what zoning is for. So
Well, see, but that's the pickle. That's how we ended up with the tourist commercial, because the
Right.
consensus was we wanted that contained along 59
correct.
and on Main Street in either direction within a reasonable.
And we just do commercial on the general plan. And then that means when somebody comes in and say, I want to do a rock shop, here, great. Let's see, commercial, that'll be a C1. So you need to apply for a C1 zone change.
Or if they say they want to do 200 cabins on that, that doesn't fall in commercial.
Right.
That's in a tiny home cabin
Right.
zone. Sorry, you can't do that right here. You have to do it over here. Because it has its own zone.
Yeah, see that, the purpose was to try to collect all those things in a specific area.
Well, but
I don't know, I wasn't part of that one.
you see, cabins is a separate zone all by itself.
I understand, but you see my point. That's why how it all ended up in a tourist commercial zone, so that tourist activities were contained. That was the point of it. So what you're trying to get us to do is to undo that, which I understand from to the extent that we're trying to prevent confusion, what you're trying to do is spot on. However, it eliminates then the intent of our intent of tourist commercial, which was to try not to have tourist, a hotel every half a mile from the
But
Hillsdale.
it doesn't mean that you can't. We can take and put a cabin on a cabin zone over there if we choose. It just requires a zone change and, amend your general plan and do a zone change. And there you got your cabin sitting on Main Street if that's what you want. But it's within that cabin zone. So really the only thing I object to is that cabins are in towards commercial, because it's completely now, it's like a beast you can't control. but everything else is already in C1 and C2.
If you have to put cabin, if you want to put cabins in the tourist commercial zone, but you still have to follow the cabin ordinance.
No, it's
Well,
a separate zone.
Why can't we make that explicit then? I mean, if the main pain point here
Right.
is that cabins are in tourist commercial and there's a conflict between what you can do in a tourist commercial and what you can do in a cabin zone, why can't we just fix that language?
Well, number one,
Rather than get rid of.
all the stuff that you can do in C1 and C2 is the same thing you do in the tourist commercial. So it's highway related, it's all, that's what C1
I
is.
understand, but my point is still, I think you're missing the point, which is we want to collect tourist activities in one area of town.
Mhm.
It's a traffic thing, it's a proximity thing. You want to have your restaurants near your hotels, near your.
And so that's what you add in there, under your zone, under your cabin zone, that is to be located at these locations.
Okay, we could do
And
that.
that's already there. It says that it needs to be, it's already in there. It says that this is only to be done, close to highway and down Main Street or other high traffic area. So it doesn't go into our neighborhoods. It's already in our
Someone
ordinance.
wants to put tiny cabins out there next to Gooseberry Road, it's a no. If
Right.
it says in that zone, you can't do it.
Right.
It has to be over here somewhere else.
Unlike those tiny homes that are in Cedar Point.
Well, that's a cabin essentially. That's what they're supposed to be. They're not supposed to be on wheels and
So did this other one.
so they are, but they are next to the highway and they are next. I don't agree with the Cedar Point one because it was already zoned residential to begin with and it's in the middle of a subdivision. Yeah, but it happened, so it happened. It's just what it is. But anyways, that's just my suggestion is just, you can still do cabins, just change the zone. And it still needs to be on the same type of areas. And it doesn't prevent somebody to come and put cabins in on the commercial. It adds one little step to it.
Well, what we're trying to do is prevent a bunch of requests for cabins scattered all across town, anywhere up and down 59 that's not contained in that area. That's
Right.
what we were trying to do.
Right.
Not just cabins, but a bunch of other
Mhm.
tourist related activities. The idea here is to try to generate some commercial revenue for the town. Let's have an area where we're gonna get, one hotel goes up, boy, watch how quick another one goes up.
That's how they always go.
That's why we thought it was commercial. That's it.
Right. They go
All that stuff
commercial.
Goes to commercial.
I understand that, but so can a bunch of other stuff. That's my point, is if you fill it full of a bunch of other commercial things, then you don't have room for the tourist stuff. So you defeated the purpose. Where are you gonna put your tourist stuff? If that's done, you see what I'm saying? What if if we get rid of the tourist commercial zones, that nothing prevents anything but tourist activities from getting built there? So
No,
that's weird,
you
those
can
things
still
go.
do, tourist commercial. You can still
Well,
put.
you still could, but it
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's going to happen.
I
We were
don't
trying to do some
understand.
planning. We were trying to say, well, this is where we want tourists. We want tourists in our town to spend their dollars, generate jobs, generate revenue, tax revenue, so on.
But that's what the commercial zones do. And if you want to put the cabin ordinance separate zone into, call it, into the commercial designation, great, that's the answer maybe. I don't have any issue with that. To just take that out as a separate zone, just put it under the cabin zone, under the commercial zones. So we have C1, C2, C3, and then put the,
One zone to worry about it. Still.
because it's floating out but we also have the,
That's RVs too, though. We have-
yeah, mobile home park.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a good one to put in
No.
a commercial.
No.
No, but we have the.
Leave that one, but
Well, there's an RV park. I could go in there, or
Well,
maybe it already is.
Our RV resort has its own zone also.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Already. It didn't need to go into the tour because it
Well,
already has its zone.
So does Kevin.
same with cabin has its own. I think we can accomplish the same thing the way it is.
I'd want to update those other.
Yeah, before we do anything, we gotta belt it together.
So do we want to move some of the wording up to C3 from the tourist commercial zone?
Well, just if we want to make sure that we have cabins under commercial, then just move the cabin into the commercial zone. So it's a zone within the commercial.
Take the whole cabin
I
zone.
guess we can
itself,
do
the
that.
whole
We have
thing.
The whole cat.
So it's not separate.
So it's like C1, C2, C3 and cabins. Well, you can put the RV park in there too.
Jenna, could you make a note that we want to put that on our agenda for the next meeting? Let's do RVs and cabins.
Sort of.
Let's have-
Discussion of possible action on.
Yeah, on updating the,
Tourist commercial zone into general commercial.
Well, just do away with the tourist commercial
Doing away with that, we're gonna add the RV and the.
Add RV.
into the commercial zones. So it's a subcategory under commercial.
If it all fits in that page.
Yeah, well, there's more paper.
That's Jenna's problem. She'll figure it out.
I mean, I'm okay proceeding with this today as long as we know we're gonna follow on later with.
Yeah,
an update.
but we need to-
Nobody's gonna build cabins between
We
now
need
and
to
March.
massage the language.
A whole lot more.
Okay.
But no, I think that's a great idea, put it all in one thing.
All right, so your proposal is to, what you want us to do today, though, is.
Just
to
do away with the tourist commercial one.
Do away with.
But I think we can also just say, put the other two in. I don't see any reason why we couldn't make that decision. Just say, put those under commercial. And then
I'm
we're
just
done.
concerned that we didn't have it on the agenda to discuss that, so.
Oh,
I think
want
we
to-
would like to read to make sure our wording is correct.
sure, I'm good. Yeah.
So we'll just put it on the agenda for next meeting and then.
Okay.
We'll get it done. Okay, all right, thank you for that. What's the next one?
So that'd be 150. 1028, 150.
I don't have a 150 on my book. I got 1028, 200 is the next one I
Yeah, I
have.
have the dumping and storing.
200 is the next one I have.
Something storing.
Dumping, storing, and disposal.
Okay. So you don't have that one either, huh? Let me just tell what it is.
What are we looking for?
1028, 150.
Okay, so this was simply a housekeeping item,
Well, I got it. Utility requirement.
utility requirements,
It's not
yeah.
down to our packet. It's not on our agenda.
Right, so all it is just
What number?
1028, 150.
Page 13, Alan.
It just adds in that they need to get approval from Big Plains Water and Special Service District. That's all it is, because it's not in there right now. And we've had an incredible big problem with this particular item that developers been trying to bypass getting approvals from Big Plains. So it just,
So you're you're lining out the reference to the public health department.
Right.
No, not public health, public works.
Yes, public health.
I'm lining out.
No, no, Southwest Public Health.
Yeah, that's gone. He's adding Big Plains Water.
And the rationale for,
yeah,
Southwest Public Health has to stay.
you need, yeah, it does need to stay.
It can't go
Because
out.
that, we still have a lot of, well, they're only involved when you do septic systems, but we still have a lot of them in there. So
Says
leave that in there.
Utah State Department of Environmental Quality for Southwest, so which,
We'll probably end up talking both.
I think it's one of the same.
This is-
One is department under the other one.
well then let's just make it clear. I don't like things that say or, that gives people, that creates arguments.
Well,
Yeah.
the one that currently oversees this, oversees is the Southwest Public Health
So
Department.
let's just call that, let's line out
Get rid of the Utah State
Utah State
Department.
Department of Environmental Quality.
And it needs, this means the Southwest Public Health.
And if you don't know it already, it has been on the Water District's agenda that we are proposing to join with Ash Creek. Ash Creek Special Service District will be handling everything pertaining to sewer. If it goes through with our district and
Instead of Big.
Ash Creek approved it, and then the county needs to approve it. And then that will be taken out of Big Plains. So Big Plains will only be water.
No, just start.
So this will actually change again if that's approved.
Just cross out the Utah Department of Environmental Quality. Or start with the. Southwest Public Health.
down the bottom of the county public works department, that needs to go away, because that's not, we don't go to the county public works.
So we get rid of that. So we did intend to line that out.
So just that piece and then Utah State Department, but the Southwest has to stay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is called when you plagiarize from everybody else.
Right.
That's how most of our ordinances came about. We plagiarized from someone
So I
else.
do have a question.
Wait, not we, you. You.
No, not just me.
We're fixing your work here.
No. This is not me.
And they don't listen to it. It's never been approved.
What's that?
Say that
I've,
again.
I've talked to Paul Wright with Southwest Public Health. And
Paul
he's-
Wright's not with the health department, he's with water quality. Two different places.
Okay,
Sorry.
so
Just to
he's
clarify.
denied, never approved any future development
I
in the
can-
past year.
I can shed a little light on that. They keep taps on all growth as far as water is concerned.
Yes.
So what they do is when we're expanding our water system, they go take a look at it and then they see if we have adequate resources to support it or not. However, they have no veto power whatsoever. But what they do is even worse. They rate us as a town. So if we don't follow their advice, then our rating gets further and further and further down. And when we try to get grants or loans, we can't get them because our rating is too low.
So one thing, just to clarify, they actually only are asked even to look at anything that's over 750 feet. So if Dell Harris looks at this guy and he's gonna go put in 500 feet extension, that just goes through the water department. It does not go to Paul Ray. Anything over 750 linear feet has to go to Paul Ray. But up to 750 feet is a town matter or a water matter. It does not go there.
But he does not,
He
you
doesn't
can't
veto
overrule it all.
It just
We can
affects our-
ignore if we choose, but we suffer the consequences.
Gotcha,
Do
okay.
we need to add in any wording in here for Ash Creek?
I think it's premature, but
Okay.
yes, we definitely need to go in and change all that once that happens.
Finalize.
Okay, next.
This is 1028-200, right?
Yeah, there we go.
Dumping and storage, so I'm adding,
Where's 200? What page is that?
Oh,
the use of land and lots for the dumping, storing, and disposal of scrap iron, junk rubbish, and other whatever, old and junk cars, trucks, trailers, building materials, shipping containers, industrial waste, and bypass shall be prohibited in every zone unless specifically improved in such a zone. So if it was in an industrial zone, for example, where it's specifically permitted, but it prevents your neighbor to be the collector of junk, and you're living in a 1 acre lot and your neighbor has 14 cars that he's working on, then that, it kind of shuts the door on and move us up a notch. And I can, from a real estate point of view, speaking as a realtor, has always been a very difficult thing to overcome. When I brought customer out to Apple Valley and they'll be like, whoa, look at all that junk. I'm not moving here. So implementing that right there, at least putting on the books. And then down the bottom, adding no yard or other open space surrounding an existing building in any zone or which is hereinafter provided around any building in any zone shall be used for storage of personal property, junk, and other unsightly items unless stored inside an approved garage, sheds, buildings. Again, same thing. Don't make a nuisance of yourself for your neighbor, but it allows us to clean up. So, and my own suggestion is when it comes to enforcing it, go help people,
Yeah.
volunteer, help them out, build a fence, whatever it takes. But this allows us, gives us some teeth.
Would old tires be considered refuse?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
How about old dilapidated buildings that
Whatever
are?
you can come up with.
There actually is a definition of junk in the books somewhere.
Yeah.
Don't believe it or not.
Yeah.
It's not real helpful, but it's there.
Okay, and the next one is, we mentioned this earlier, the
Steel buildings.
commercial looking buildings.
So we're just adding that right there. It just simply says, in an effort to avoid the appearance of commercial style buildings in a residential zone, so we're only dealing in residential zones. And to protect the character and stability of residential neighborhoods, no metal buildings or industrial looking building may be built as a primary residence in any zone. So we're just adding that section into that 1028-240.
So didn't we have that in the past, except for that it said that it had to come before the planning commission if they wanted to do that building?
Remember, I don't know if you remember, but when Sean was attorney, they changed the law. We used to have a whole bunch of things in there says by conditional use.
Yeah.
Okay, so the state changed the law and says you can't really have all this conditional by conditional use. So you have permitted uses or you have not permitted uses. You can't have all this. And I'm personally not a fan of that they did it. I like that you have that open door if there was an exception to it. But now it's an either or. It's not we don't have that open door.
So I'm a little bit concerned about when it says no metal building. I mean, if somebody wants to build a house out of metal, if it looks like a house, what do we care?
Well, as long as it looks good, that's the point.
And that's the whole point here. It says,
But it says no metal building. So I like the industrial looking or commercial looking. Those kinds of languages are perfectly fine. I don't want that in a residential area. But if we say no metal building and
well, it doesn't go with the next paragraph. So no metal building or industrial looking. So no metal looking or, anyway, English is second language to me, so I'm open for suggestions of how to make it.
The way to
Just get rid of the metal buildings and just leave it industrial looking.
Why don't we say, no industrial looking metal building?
Okay, so I do have a quick question.
Well, we don't even want industrial looking.
I caution you, you might want to look up the HUD regulations. Federal outstates the state and you guys. HUD has regulations that says you cannot stipulate.
Okay, quick question. If my husband wants to build a shop, I guess he can't do it? For our Jeeps, because we're Rock Brothers.
So this is primary residence.
So this is talking about as a home,
Oh, okay.
as a home only.
Accessory building.
It's the accessory building. So it's not, you can have an accessory building that's metal. But this here is
So it's under garages and
Yeah, it's under
other
accessory buildings.
Oh, yeah, that's
And then starts talking about residential and I'm a little confused.
Oh, yeah.
so, yeah, you're right. So we need to find a right place for it.
So this needs to go away from this one. It's not in the right place.
The single family zone already has something much similar to this.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
What does it have?
It has, a limitation on steel buildings, single family does.
Okay,
Residential RE used to have it,
Right.
it was taken out,
okay.
or tried to be taken out, it's kind of still there, but that's a long.
So my suggestion and my intent is that it pertains to residential homes. It doesn't pertain to that you having a shop next to your house.
should we put it,
Can we,
a line item under 1010?
Why don't we just move forward with this one until we find the right place for it?
yeah,
Yeah, so let's research it. Forrest, help me out.
Oh, it's-
And then let's find the place for it and put it there.
Number 7 under single family, it used to be item G and RE or something.
Let's find a place for it. So it does.
Yeah, it does read differently than what you tried to add here, so you might want to,
We'll look on it.
we'll look at it.
I have-
Lynn back
I
here
have a
has had a hand
question.
up for a while.
we're not doing, sorry.
Okay.
This is our meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, that needs to go. in
So
different
that one,
place.
any voting we do, let's make sure that's not,
Part of it.
that's not part of that. We're not.
That one we'll just bring up again when we find a home for it.
If you want to do something, we could just copy the single family blurb and put it in residential.
Right. But let's work on it.
Okay.
Let's work on it.
I thought if you wanted to do something, I was gonna do it.
Okay, so 1028, 280, is that next on yours?
270. Oh, no, we did that one.
We get,
Yeah,
we did the guest house, yeah.
280 is.
280.
Yeah, that's-
So let me just tell you, the intent of this one is that we have a unique problem here in our little town. Is that we have people that build houses and never finish them. And if you have one of the unlucky people that live next to somebody that just finished the outside enough that it's shell, and then they get inside, because building code does not require you to have your house finished on the outside. It's just gotta be weatherproof. But you could do that with a paint. You can just paint over your OSB and voila, you fit the mold. So the intent here is to say, we really don't care what you do on the inside. If you want to live with bare floors and no doors and no kitchen other than a microwave that's required by a building code, then go for it. But please finish the outside. So you're a good neighbor, so you don't destroy the neighborhood. So this simply put a restriction, a time restriction on number one. Building codes already has that, just so you know. You have 1 year to build a house. You could file for an extension, one extension. But we're also clarifying that in this.
Completing means.
Yeah, we're clarifying what completing means, so they can't wiggle away from it. Just throw a layer of paint on top of an OSB sheeting and call it, I'm done. So we're adding this language right there into it.
What happens if they don't?
That's what I was gonna ask.
They don't get occupancy.
Okay.
They don't get occupancy.
You should say that.
I think it says so. Anyone sure they should have been from, they have to be in.
Maybe.
So yeah, you're right. So it doesn't say that. It just says you have to have it done within a certain time. But we could add in, or prior to occupancy permit being issued.
Right.
Because now it's not just a time frame. It's also, if they build a house in 3 months.
Yeah.
Then, no, you can't get your CO.
Yeah.
Do we control the occupancy permit? That's the county.
No, us, we do.
It is the town.
Yeah. Barrett's now over the building department. And Barrett will fill the void that the things that Lance has only inspected the house and didn't care about anything else.
Right.
Now we have somebody that has to approve all the rest of it.
Where
So,
were you when
yeah.
I was building my house?
Yeah.
When my builder was building my house.
Oh, I was around.
Not-
I approved it all.
Appreciate that.
So,
should we put wording in here.
Yeah, let's
saying
say, add something about the CO. About,
no occupancy permit will be issued until,
they met the requirements of 1028-280.
until
Yep.
the building met.
Is completed. Exterior, actually. So
Met
we're talking
these
about exterior.
Yeah, exterior.
As Frank said, the interior, well, whatever.
Yeah, I don't care what people do on the inside, but
Well, they gotta have a bathroom, I think.
building code,
That's building inspector.
Yeah.
building code just says you have to have one functional bathroom and you have to where to cook, which is a microwave.
Right.
Well, it also
So-
says you cannot have any exposed outlets.
Right.
You have to, that's all part of the code.
Right.
So we don't need to get into that. We're just
Right.
talking outside of the house.
Right, outside the house.
So how about we add, no occupancy permit will be issued until the building meets these requirements.
It's actually certificate now, occupancy certificate.
Yeah.
CFO, certificate of occupancy.
Yeah, just start out in front of any homes. Prior to any occupancy. Prior to issuing of an occupancy permit, any homeowner, builder, in town must ensure that the exterior. So just add that right in front of it.
I think we got it.
Okay, and we're also adding 22890, which it is in the building code, but is very vague. So this pencils it out really in details what they can, and I copied this from the building code, just so you know. The next page is part of that.
What does, it says here that from the day the permit issued, it will expire if the work is not started with it. What does work started constitute? I mean, did you just move some dirt? That's good enough?
Which one are you talking about?
It's in the middle of the building code.
That paragraph says starts with the building code. It talks about we have to start within 180 days. Do we have a definition of what started means? I mean, is it? You have a piece of
You can do dirt work without a permit.
What's that?
You can do dirt work without a permit.
Yeah, so what?
Well, not anymore if we add that. Right. And now like you can't go and if you're in a subdivision that's already got a lot buildable, then you can dig your footers. But if you're on out here on an acre or 2 or 10, then you now need to get a grading permit before you can start tearing down all the vegetation.
Like he said, like.
I'm just
Alan
curious.
said.
I mean, if somebody goes out and hammers a stake in the ground and they can say, hey, I started.
That's work for the day.
Don't hire that contractor.
Well, no, see, so it says that when you get a building permit, you got 12 months. So,
But it says here you have to start within 180 days. So.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make you 12 months if you don't.
Well, that's true.
and it calls out that it says you have to have an inspection every so often or you die. So it's covered in there. It is. I pulled it right out of there.
Doesn't
Yep.
identify what started means. Okay.
But and the only reason to put it in here is just it's so much easier to refer to our code than find. It took me forever to find it in the building code. It was really quite a challenge.
All right. Stormwater application and detention. This one's gonna.
Okay, let me give you the whole purpose and intent of this. Unfortunately, in Apple Valley, we have had subdivisions that were approved, primarily all of this part of Apple Valley, Cedar Point subdivision, where there is no detention basins whatsoever. And of course, that won't happen again because now you can't get a subdivision without you retaining your own runoff water in your subdivision. But we have them here now.
Yeah.
So rather than whenever you build a house and you pour your dry waste and you add hardscape to it, you're adding more runoff that normally would have been sinking in on your own ground. And you're sending it down the borrow ditch down to one of your neighbors. And then we get sued, which we've done. How many times have we been sued? And Richard's been out working on this because we got sued because all this runoff water. So this here simply says that in order to get a building permit, as part of that process, you got to provide a little calculation from your engineer that says, based on the hardscape you're adding, you need to retain the excess water you're creating on your property.
So this is already state law, just so all you guys know.
It
this
is.
Actually state law.
It is.
We aren't doing anything different than what the state says we have to.
Unfortunately, it's our backyard that collects all the runoff water from Cedar Point.
Yes, and that we're trying to.
You're the detention pond.
So what this will do to your subdivision and to your property, this will send less water into your yard. As they add more permits into that subdivision, now they're gonna be required to retain the portion that they create
So we
instead
can't
of sending
change-
into
We
you.
can't change the ones that are built,
Right,
but all the new ones will have.
new ones. So this will just be another check item on a building permit that says,
This is.
where's your design for your detention basin? And by the way, detention basin doesn't mean, I built detention basin for subdivisions that where you dig a big old hole based on the size of the engineer tell you, you fill it full of rocks that has all the voids, leave all these voids, and then you put a piece of cloth on top of it, and you put dirt on top of that, and then you do your landscaping, your lawn, or whatever you want on top of it. So it goes away. Doesn't have to be stand out as an ugly hole. So it just depends on how you want it.
This
Yeah.
is something that I've been doing on building plans for the last 8 to 10
Right.
months. Everyone that came through, I had to make sure this was done.
You didn't build a moat, no.
Oh,
You need to collect that water and put it back in the water.
Frank, will they still be expected to have a borrow ditch? Will they still expected to have a borrow ditch?
And Utah state law allows you to collect that water for yourself. If you don't have water. you can't.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
We're
pretty
already
hard to
collecting
collect.
it.
So this is just, it's a fix, it's a Band-Aid, I recognize it, but it's a Band-Aid. And in the end, it could be thousands of gallons that doesn't end up in your yard
And
or
it
someone
keeps us
else's
in
yard.
line with what.
State law.
What it requires anyway. You're supposed to retain it. And it specifically exempts lots that are located in a subdivision where there is a retention pond. So it only pertains to area of town that doesn't have that. You can't just send it now for any more. You can't send all your water downstream to cause damage for somebody else if we adopt this.
Okay,
But there's more language in there. It also says that you can't take a ditch. I mean, this is still already in the, but it talks about if you got a ditch running through your property, you can't just cover it all up and then now someone else downstream get a huge problem because you don't want it to run through your property. It says you got to get permission before you do that.
makes sense.
So dealing with stormwater. So this is what this is all about.
So state law also tells us that in lieu of a retention pond, we can get it to a public street if the public street has a drainage system
Right.
to deal with said water. If that
Right.
street doesn't have a way to deal with it, you can't send it on the street.
And we're exempting that right in here. That's what we say right in the middle of that. We simply say, if it's already being dealt with in your subdivision, this doesn't apply to you.
So where our house is located at, we have this shallow little area.
The little dip,
Yes, and it goes down to Highway 59. What do we do?
That's state. That little piece that dips between the highway, that's actually state right away. We can't touch it.
No, the water goes out onto the highway if we get a huge rainstorm.
State highway, not ours.
Right.
We can't do anything with it.
yeah, it kind of becomes their problem. If they may complain about it, then it becomes our problem. But unfortunately, this subdivision you live in and over here were all approved with no drainage considerations whatsoever. So this is a Band-Aid, but it's a Band-Aid.
Okay, looks good.
1028, 310, is that what we got?
Yep.
This simply adds one little paragraph, no grading or grubbing of vacant lot shall be allowed prior to issuance of a building permit and shall be subject to Title 1108-130, and that's that grading ordinance that we put in place,
So we need
that we're
to,
talking about
we need
later.
to add something to this, and we need to clarify. So first off, every lot in our town has to have soils engineering, okay? Because we're not in St. George where they do mass grading of all these lots, okay? So every single lot, before anybody can do anything, they have to go dig a test hole. And they have to get that done. And so somebody sees somebody digging a test hole, they can't do a single thing. They can't prepare the engineered permits or apply for a building permit without digging a test hole. So we need to make sure that we exclude that as part of their, somebody's got to bring a machine in, they got to dig a test hole.
So you're talking about for septic system,
No.
or for your soils,
So part of our permit application,
geology test,
number one, we have to have a septic
Right.
permit,
right,
okay, for
right,
our area. Number
Right.
two,
Right.
we have to have our geological soils work done, okay? So the engineer says how big your footings are, how much you have to over-X, how much you have to recompact, but you can't get that information without digging.
But is
So-
so this just says
Dig.
grading and grubbing is all it says.
This is grading and grubbing.
So it,
I know, but somebody's gonna say, hey, you got a machine on that because you're digging a hole.
Well,
We need to clarify.
so we could just add a paragraph that
Yes.
says test hole
Pits are acceptable
test
prior
holes.
to permits.
needed.
What about, just, proper construction techniques are allowed?
Didn't you say that there was a permit for, how'd you say that? Not really excavating, but they get permits just to scoop something up into the land? off the land?
Encroachment?
No,
No, but we have that proposed ordinance that we got from Virgin.
yeah.
And that's it's really massive, but it's the one that says you can't excavate without having excavation permit.
So can't we put that under soil testing, requirement? Because they have to go in and dig deep to see what kind of soils if we have.
It's,
um,
yeah, it's not,
Clay,
10 feet's the
10
minimum?
feet's the minimum, so they're gonna make a pretty big mess,
Mhm.
and they're gonna put it all back.
Right,
And so it's gonna look like somebody's been in there grading, that's my point, so all we wanna do is put an
just add,
exception.
yeah,
An
say,
exception that soils testing.
soils testing is exempt from this.
Is acceptable, or
Yep.
exempt from this.
Yep, that's a
Just
good
start
idea.
the sentence with the exception of
Soils testing. There you go.
Yes.
Easy, there you go, test.
There we go.
I just wanna make sure that
Yep.
that's covered, because we can't put the cart before the horse.
Right,
You can't say you can't do anything,
Right.
but this is required in order to do this,
right,
but you can't do this without it. We can't do that.
right. I agree.
Okay. That cover Title 10?
That was, nope. 10/08/330 excavation and grading permit required. Do you have that one?
Oh, I don't
Which one?
know.
10/28, or 10/08/320. Do you have that?
That's gotta be a mistake. It's 20.
Oh, no, it is. It's the next, starts on page 20,
24.
24, yeah. This is the big one?
Yeah, that's the version.
1102 just got
Yeah,
in.
10/28/20, right?
Yeah, 24, page 24.
Right.
10/28/320.
We just did 310.
And are you sure you want us to deal with this now rather than come up with a more simplified version to talk? I mean, is there a sense of urgency to get this one in now?
Depends on who buys. So most people it's rather common here that they just do it all. And we've just dealt with it last week. That somebody just tore into the hillside and start digging and the problem is we don't have any recourse other than saying you can't. But in this ordinance, it now adds that you've got to restore it.
Don't we already have a thing that says right now that without a notice to proceed, which would be the grading permit, that you can't go do that anyways?
We don't have a grading permit.
We don't have any grading permit at all.
Your notice to proceed, it acts as your grading permit. It's the same thing we get down in Hurricane. Same thing we get in St. George. You get a notice to proceed once they've given you permission on your project.
Right.
Yeah.
And that works fantastic when you have a quarter-acre lot and it's just dirt and we move in and we do our stuff.
Yeah, but your notice to proceed also applies to big commercial projects, applies to residential projects. You can't go out there and bring all this earth equipment in there and start cutting lots without having a notice to proceed.
Right, but here, before they ever get a permit, they move in and they start grubbing and moving everything that grows.
It's their land.
So it's, yeah, that's the attitude. And that's wonderful, except if you're the guy that lives next door and it's a big dust storm from then on, and it served no purpose other than removing it. So I'm not opposed to, we definitely need to put something in place. And if somebody would do research and find a simple one, I'm all for that because this is draconian one.
Yeah, it's like 10 feet.
Yeah.
I'd like to table this particular one. I just don't like the idea of putting something that's
We don't want,
overkill, knowing that we're gonna change it. Let's just, if it takes us a month or two, I mean, one or two
No.
people might.
yeah, no, I'm okay with it. I'm just throwing it out there.
I
so.
appreciate, no, I think it's necessary, but I'd love to see it going before Apple
Is there
Valley.
any way just to add a line in the building permit process?
But it's not even that, it's just.
But this is free building permit. That's the issue. Building permit, then we're dealing with it already.
Right.
It's the pre-building permit stuff that happens that just, and 80% of the people they do like the rest of us. We carve out our roads, leave the trees as many as we can, but unfortunately we have the 20% that just plow it all under. And then it's very unsightly and it'll be nice to be able to say, please.
But they think it looks better.
I know.
You don't live there.
We're gonna table this until we get something better.
I'd like to table that section, just until we get something that's a little bit less, verbose.
That's the last one for tonight, so we can get moving on.
That's the last one of 10, title 10.
Now we gotta jump into 11.
Tie into, yeah.
So do we need to vote on changes?
Well, let's do 10 real quick and then we'll move on to 11, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's the whole update Title 10 is all.
So does anybody want to make a motion that we make the updates to Title 10 that we discussed minus, I think, the two.
One table, one deduction.
Yeah, except for the 1028-240 about the accessory buildings and the 1028-320 we're gonna table. There was one more, wasn't there, for rewording?
So are you making the motion then?
Well, I'm okay with us proceeding with getting rid of the tourist commercial, knowing that we're gonna have
Okay.
a discussion.
Yeah,
at
well,
the next
we
meeting.
can, we're gonna already have that one on the agenda.
So I make a motion to approve the changes we talked about in chapter 10,
Title 10.
title 10, thank you. And leaving out 1028-320 and 1028-240 for future meetings.
Second.
Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Anybody opposed?
And if there is any volunteer amongst you that would love to dig into other, because that's what I did.
Yeah.
You dig into other cities and towns and find an excavation ordinance, for example, that would be phenomenal.
Ampus back there, he was part of a town. I mean, he has nothing there. He owns a business.
Yeah.
I mean, he can take that on for us.
I can do
No
some
pressure.
investigation on
Would
this.
you mind? Yeah, and you got this one from Virgin, you said?
Yeah, this was Virgin.
So
I'll-
we want something more Apple Valley and less Virgin.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't need 10 pages.
Yeah.
Okay.
They usually have good stuff.
All right, let's, here, I thought this meeting was gonna be on the shorter side.
Me too.
Let's head to discussion on the update to Title 11. You want to walk us through these?
Yeah, so start with 110240. That's the one where we remove the mayor's power. So I suggest,
1108.
That's a mistake. It's actually 1102.
Oh,
Oh,
ours says 08.
Yeah, it does. It does in one place in 1102.
This is the one that got stuck in on pages 22 and 23 here in between.
yeah, I scribbled in 110240, but I can see that I probably did it the other one. But it is the one that's called necessity of plat exception from plat requirements. And I suggest that to simplify, rather than go through and scratching out the one we have, we simply adopt this one as directly copied from Hurricane City.
Okay.
That is their ordinance, and it just allows the mayor to do a lot split, period, end of story, nothing else.
Sounds good.
Actually, it says staff can. So if you want it to say mayor, then you need to change it.
Well, I don't, either way, it's just a lot split.
Yeah.
So if we want to do mayor staff, it's,
I'd be more comfortable with mayor.
Yeah.
I just worried about.
well, let me, the mayor will have to sign off under any circumstances. So staff could approve, but it's still required because you're amending a plat, so it gets recorded.
And the town attorney has to both sign.
Correct. So we're not bypassing the mayor by just saying staff,
What are you?
but either way, I don't care.
You know what, just to make it simple, let's just say the town. Because.
Yeah, we need to replace city anyway. We're not a city, so.
Correct.
Not yet, very soon we will be.
Well, we can just say mayor is fine too. That simplifies it. Then it's just out of there.
Well, then you said the mayor would have to do it.
Sign the Mylar that gets recorded.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Why would there be a Mylar? This doesn't talk about a Mylar.
No, because on any lot split, you're doing, it's called the meets and bounds subdivision.
In order to get recorded with the county, you have to have.
We've never done that, but I'm not arguing against it. I'm just saying.
You can't do it any way
The
different.
county will not
We're
record
not-
it.
I can bring you a big list and done differently.
No, people have just done it
Right.
without. But here we're saying that the mayor can do this unilaterally without having to go to planning commission and town council. And if somebody got a 2-acre lot and want to split it into, Go for it. As long as it still has to meet all the
Right,
ordinances.
that's, yeah.
So-
you
so
can-
the
now,
state-
Yeah.
You can't carve out a 1 acre.
Zone properly has to be zero.
Yeah, so it's not,
The state allows the 10, that's where it came from.
Right.
But we're gonna adopt it down to 1.
right. We can do less.
How about approved by city council?
No, no, that's what we're trying to avoid.
That's exactly what we're avoiding here.
Okay.
How about the planning
That'll,
commission?
that'll,
No, we got the power, let's use it. There's another serious symbol. Oh, here we go.
okay, and then, street improvements.
Okay. So this is where we have conflicts between the design standards.
Which page are we finally on?
So
36.
this is 1108-040. So, so up on table A, I suggest where it says borrow ditch that we change that with sidewalk, because that is what we say in every one of our design standards.
Okay.
And the same thing on table B. And then add in under sidewalk shall be required. Well, if we don't really have to say that because it shows it up there as being required.
You see in the substitute. You're wanting to change the subdivision from 1 acre larger lots to 5 acre larger lots?
Yeah, let me do the sidewalk thing first.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying in the middle there to see what my note says. My intent was that is just to say that the standard is with sidewalk, period. But open up the door, add something like in rural, in farm zones, for example, with permission from the council, you can eliminate that. Just open up the door, but only not on the higher density. So it's like in farming areas, but we have a road standard that goes with that. If we adopt that, the new road standards with 15 instead of 8 roads, then that there's a whole section there to deal with rural roads, which we strangely don't have. We're the rural community.
So if someone has a 5 acre lot, we want them to put sidewalk around the 5 acre lots, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying, so, in all the single families,
You're saying that you can get an exemption here.
so it just needs to be brought up, because right now they throw it in our face and say, I don't want to do it.
1 acre lots is what we have currently, but that's 1 acre lots is, we're good with that.
Right.
Why are we going to 5? That's completely bonkers. Make it 2 if you're gonna.
Well, if you did a 5 acre subdivision, you would be doing a rural road. And on a rural road design, it doesn't require a sidewalk. So if you look at that design of all those streets, you look at the rural roads, there's the various different rural roads that doesn't have sidewalks in it.
So you should be able to do a rural road down to 1 acre, and anything 1 acre and smaller, it automatically goes into the subdivision, and we talk about sidewalks and that kind of stuff, right?
My suggestion is that anything to do with single family, we just, that is 1 acre and less.
1 acre.
So, but right now we have 2.5 acre, 5 acre, single family. My suggestion, but I didn't bring that up tonight, but my suggestion is that single families are 1 acre and less. And then we have rural or farming, well, you have 2.5, 5, 10, and that'll be rural roads.
Yeah,
That goes with
People
that.
like their RE1s, they want to have their horse. Are you suggesting getting rid of the rural estate?
Yeah, that's what it's
No,
talking
yeah,
about.
I don't think that's what he's saying.
No, I'm just saying that if you do, it could be farm or it could be rural, but 1 acre, if you go to 1 acre, then sidewalks required.
Well, that's what he's saying. So
It's-
right now we can do a 1 acre rural estate lot.
Right.
So you can have a farm type setting, you have horses, you have this, but now we immediately gotta put sidewalks in. Who wants to ride their horse on sidewalks?
In a development.
In a development, in a subdivision.
In a subdivision,
Not in a,
not in a
not
rural.
a, you come out.
I know,
here
but
and buy
if you go look at Smithsonian right now, the
Right,
whole area of Gooseberry,
Right.
those are all 1 acre lots. That whole area.
right.
You want that whole development to have sidewalks?
They're
That's really bizarre.
But when you look at, see, we're spread out and spread out and spread out. But when you look at Crimson Peaks, for example, it's all sitting right next door to us here. There's 268 lots that are put into,
Proposed half acre.
but they're half acre, right?
And they're all
right.
gonna have sidewalk
Right,
and we're all
right.
on that same page. So
Right.
we need to leave it like we left it in the past. Anything under the 1 acre needs to have this. 1 acre and above needs to be able to have the ability to have the rural. Cause that's what I'm saying. Go look at Gooseberry where Kevin Sayer lives.
Yes.
Kevin, you want
I'm-
sidewalks
I'm-
all over your
no,
damn-
I'm with
okay,
you on
there-
Richard.
that's
I'm
what I'm
with you on
talking
that.
about.
That's why I bought out. I don't want.
No, that part, we need to get rid of this 5 and go back to the 1.
We just want a road.
Yeah.
1 acre,
A paved road, yes, we want. We
right.
don't want sidewalk on 1 acre lots. That's a huge lot. That's stupid. Nobody wants that here.
We have, what's his name? Red Mountain, is that what it's called? We just approved almost 400, Redstone, yeah, almost 400, and most of them are 1 acre lots, but it's 400 homes. And again, we're talking about, in my opinion, when you say sidewalk or not, it's about when people are out walking and the kids go to their neighbor, we're forcing them out on the street if we don't have a place for them to go. So, but that's why my opinion was, when you get to above 1 acre, then it's so low
So
and it's
then,
more
then,
rural.
then that's what I think we should do, okay? We should have the rural states, if they want horses, and they're gonna make a development for horses,
Right,
they can go to 1 acres, like what they have out by Kevin,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
But if they don't want to allow horses in that development, they can make it a strictly single-family residential zone.
right,
And then if it's a single family, it has to have sidewalk.
right,
There's a difference between people who want horses and
right.
people who don't. I mean, Margaret has horses. I can guarantee you, she does not want to have a horse on the sidewalk. Well, they used to, sorry.
They passed
It
it.
died.
Oh, sorry. So that sucks.
Because it
But
didn't
I-
have a sidewalk.
I don't want to interrupt the meeting, but I do have a question
Didn't
for
want
that.
kids to see it.
What do you do in a development where some of it's 1 acre and then part of it's a half acre?
They're gonna have to have a definition
We're
split.
gonna have to have a, yeah,
Half acre will be single
it'll have to
family.
be
the side-
designed where it accommodates both of them.
Yeah, they're gonna have to
So
figure
since
that
we
out.
have we have a difference between single family, we have a zone that's single family, we have a zone that's RE.
Right.
I think that's where the designation should.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. That's
But-
what I was thinking.
But I'm suggesting, I mean, not tonight, but single family, we take out the larger, see, right now we have single family 2.5 and single family 5. That should only be over in the rural. So
So we'll
we
switch
separate,
that. Yeah, let's
So we
separate
switch
that.
it.
That's easy.
right. So once you want larger than that, then you're in the rural.
Right.
You're not in the single family, because right now we have it in both.
So, yeah, we need to fix that.
They can buy 5
With-
lots.
Huh?
They can buy 5 lots.
Yeah,
And build on 1.
right.
So this part with this, we need to not do this part right now. We need to change it later and and separate the single family from the rural and go down that road.
Okay, so just,
You could designate the difference between.
I would appreciate that we said the single families right now, sidewalk period, end of story, because that's what I'm dealing with right now.
Sure.
I got all these developments wants to come in, and their zones, they all got their zone change for single family. And our design standard says already 1 acre.
Right.
So, on any of those, any single family,
So where are we gonna be putting single family to make that distinction?
just put a paragraph in.
Single family.
Okay, so we're on exhibit B, down below in subdivision with 1 acre lots, correct?
That's
So-
where we're at currently, yes. That's
So
what I was trying to get to.
we're not gonna change it to 5 acre or larger lots, we're
No.
gonna leave it at 1. Correct?
But in rural estates,
Right.
Rural estate subdivisions,
Subdivisions with, in RE subdivision.
yeah, rural estate subdivisions,
And we don't even have to identify what that means in terms of size.
No, it's just the whole zone.
because they'll change. In rural estate subdivisions, we could say sidewalk may be replaced by da-da-da.
Yeah, that's fine, because that at least we, that at least the way we.
If approved by town
Have it as an
council.
ordinance, and then you just want to get it in.
That's really what I like to see is that we get the discussion.
Yeah.
That when they bring in a subdivision, this discussion is there with what are they getting or not getting.
Yeah, I like that rather than, this idea that they're gonna come and just.
Other than then they just roll in and tell us what they're gonna do.
Well, so they have to be in the single family or the rural estates in order to get the link.
The differences.
Together.
Right.
Okay, I like it.
Good job, everybody.
Do we get cookies later?
Absolutely.
Wait till later.
Never too late.
Okay. You want to change the,
So just one more little thing down on D at the bottom of page. This says D2. If, just where curb and gutters is required, it shall be concrete.
okay.
And the same thing on the next page under 3, where sidewalks is required shall be concrete and shall meet standards, blah, blah, blah. Yep,
Okay.
okay. We're down to subdividers agreement. Did I give an example of that?
Good somewhere.
Page 67.
Wow. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Save us some time.
Right.
So we, as you can see, we already have all the stuff that are in blue, unless you have not black and white. You got all black and white. Okay. We're just adding down in the second paragraph. Attorney's fees and costs, should the subdivider of town initiate a lawsuit for any reason, then the above mentioned region, the prevailing parties shall be entitled to cost and reasonable attorney's fees. And this agreement shall be governed by the construed in accordance with the laws of the state of Utah. So I'm just suggesting we add that in under the subdividers agreement, and we also add a similar one to it under our land use ordinance. So that'll be 1102-100 land use change agreements.
Have you run this by an attorney yet?
Yeah.
No, we'll run it by them. They will.
You don't think we should run it by before we vote on it?
Legally.
No, we're just recommending, and then they will.
It'll get done before the-
Yeah, it will, before it ever passes, they will,
So where's the next one?
66.
Oh, it's on the page.
So they're both
Prior.
just cross with each other. Same language, basically.
yeah, same thing. We're just putting it under land use change, so now if you want a zone change or a general plan change, you sign this first. So if you're unhappy and you sue us, at least you know that you have a chance of ending up paying both sides of that.
The downside to that is if the town loses, the town also pays both sides.
I agree,
Okay.
but that's why we gotta make sure,
Just wanna make
we
sure.
gotta make sure that we don't mess up, that we follow our own ordinances. If we follow our ordinances, we don't have any trouble. Okay, next, what's that?
Development. So I do have a quick question about building policies and town development.
Okay,
What do you guys think about?
Which number are you on first? Thank you.
which one?
What do you guys think of when a builder comes in and hires contractors, they're supposed to clean up on that site. Wind blows, guess where all the stuff goes all over the town. I think we need to add something in here to the developers responsible for the contractors to do the site cleaning, or they are fined for their contractors. Does that make sense?
Okay, let me explain to you how Hurricane City have dealt with this problem. If I'm correct, we place a deposit when we pull a permit. Isn't that part of it? Or did they do away with that? But I think there is. So when you pull a permit, you place a deposit with the town. And if we don't keep our sites clean, then we get fined and we lose part of our deposit.
I would like to.
So, but we don't have anything like that now.
I want to recognize what Rich was talking about earlier too, because there's a burden on neighbors sometimes when there's improvements happening, which are necessary. Is there any, how do you deal with that? I mean, what can we do to hold
Okay, they only,
accountable for not overstaying their welcome or being?
I recognize the problem. I mean, if a builder is working on a street, that are public street, you need an encroachment permit, and that's very limited. You have to do a plan that shows how long you're gonna be, and it's very regulated. But when you're working out in the middle of nowhere, it's a little bit different ballgame. Hurricane City has a dust ordinance, for example, that says that you can't be making a mess. And so dust blows all over the neighborhood. They adopted that. So you'll always have to have a water truck on your job to spray it down. Reality is, when you're developing especially, you're making a mess. There is, and that's how we built the lot that you live on. Well, it was making that mess. So
I think we understand that. It's just a matter of, it sounds to me like it's possible that people go out of their way to be detrimental.
well, and I know what
What sort of teeth do we have? What can we do as a town to?
there isn't anything in our ordinances right now that says that when you're developing, you must have it done within the X time frame. It's not there, and sometimes there's lots of reasons why you get delayed.
Well,
You know.
and that's the very problem. So Frank's gonna start a new development and he's gonna dig in rock or he's gonna do this and that. And the guy that's doing the work, his machine breaks down, or all of a sudden they find something that wasn't supposed to be there, and now everything's gotta stop and it's gotta go back to engineering. The engineer's gotta tell them what to do and how to fix it. Until that happens, you can't continue forward. So there's delays with development that have nothing to do with the guy doing the work in any way, shape, or form. It's trying to
I
find
think that if we see right now, it's been the Wild West out here, pretty much.
And it still is.
And it still is, but once we get going on following our ordinances, we actually have a person that's over the building department, and we have somebody that's over planning and zoning, and we have a public works director. Now we're having some bodies
We have built in.
that we haven't had. And a lot of times we're currently dealing with that the plans were never really detailed enough. They didn't have all the stuff they're supposed to, and they still got passed. But now they're gonna be, you're gonna have your grading plan, and you're gonna have your pipe sizes or whatever it may be, the problem to hold them up right now. That's gonna be pinned down before you even start.
Yeah. Okay.
You won't have the half the Wild West stuff we have, you won't have in the future.
True.
So I know in some cities, they have requirements that you can't start too early in the morning. And it could be that I'm a big baby about it, okay? So, I work Monday through Friday. Well, okay, I work at the park, so I work 4 days a week. But on the weekends, when we're off, you like some peace and quiet, and then they're building. Why, is there a way that we can ask them to
We
not
have a,
build until 8 to 5?
we have a 7 to 7.
So you're telling me you wanna hurry up and get done, but now you don't want them to work a few days? We can't have a whole place.
You know, the biggest problem is when they're pouring concrete. They are out there at 3 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
The
Oh,
chickens
yeah.
are actually.
Kind of
Especially in the summertime, they have to be, you know?
We do have a noise ordinance from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. already. So we do have a noise ordinance, and it's countywide, it's not just us.
Yeah.
It's all the way through Washington County.
Have you heard your guys in your son's house,
My guys in my son's
your
house,
contractors?
no different than any other house.
That is true.
Okay,
I've
just
heard
checking.
some, quite a few interesting things.
But I wish there was a
Hurricane has a 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., I think.
Yeah.
Work, or maybe it's 9 p.m. 6 to 9 is the work hours that they can operate. Because I've gotten phone calls from the city saying, we had a complaint, your guys were there working at 4:30 this morning.
Well, but yeah.
And it's 6 o'clock.
People are always there at 4:30.
Yeah, but they're out there swinging hammers on those metal stakes
Yeah,
at 4:30 in the morning, getting ready, doing the last
Or the
preparations.
cement truck, beep, beep, beep.
Yeah, and then that too, so.
The bright light.
You have to pour before it gets too warm in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then otherwise you lose your concrete.
We
Gets
can,
away
we
from
can invest, the town could invest in a couple dozen sets of really good headphones or something.
Right.
That's about.
Earplugs to the neighbors. And, yeah.
I did that already with my husband's story.
We'll get some of that background noise.
Yeah, get you.
Just put another set over it.
Bear, have you ever offered that suggestion when somebody called to complain about the noise? Hey, let me bring some earmuffs.
It usually
We gotta
comes
get
by
done.
way of Frank or the city, is
So-
how it gets to me.
Is
If I
there
have
any
the
way that
opportunity,
we can
then
get
yes, I would
something
say
in
that.
here about the site cleaning? The
Well, I do like that idea of a deposit that.
cleaning the.
Yeah, it's a logistic nightmare for the towns. It really is a pain in the butt that you gotta make a deposit and then you gotta pay it all back
For every single job.
for every single job there is out there. So
There's so much trash. I
Right.
mean, are we
Well, you're not
respecting
giving it all
our
back if
property?
you're cleaning, if you're using it to clean up.
see, we don't have this, because we do a really, really good job. So we don't have that issue. But I know it's very, very common on construction sites.
Is it because they don't
Let's
have,
take a
is it because they
tour
don't have
and
dumpsters on site or something, or
There's
what's?
dumpsters on site.
Some dumpsters that
Oh, they get
they get
full.
overflowed and then they blow before you can get them
Right.
dumped. And we have a lot of problems with people dumping into our
I know,
dumpsters.
right?
Well, I do
I-
have to
I-
tell
we're not-
you,
It's awesome when you
It's
get
not even our
mattresses.
stuff.
You know, I suppose we probably
Put it out and create a sign. that
There
says,
are laws
"Don't
that
dump
consider
here."
it, right? So we can
That's what
just
California
exercise.
does.
I mean, call the cops.
Lock them.
No, we have great big job dumpsters, you can't. No, we put up
So I
cameras
have
to
to
try
tell
to
you
watch
guys,
people.
Richard, we called Washington County,
Hmm?
when we first moved in, because it was a month before we got our trash cans. I don't know why. They said, just use one of the dumpsters at the constructions. I said, okay, then you guys are paying the fine. What's your name?
Yeah, we get a lot of people do that. That's like I said, we put up cameras because we're 2 weeks into a 40-yard dumpster, 30-yard dumpster, and it's full. And we're like, that didn't come off our job. And we get a lot of it. And we called Jerry out there and like, hey, you need to tell your subs, use your own. We got him on camera. His subs walking over and filling our dumpster. We're like, the hell's wrong with you? Use your own dumpster. He's like, well, sorry. Well, I mean, so.
Okay, anybody have a motion to make on, Title 11?
Did we go through all of them? Did we do or is that on the next page, the building policies?
That's what she started on.
Oh, we didn't finish that one? Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, that's really not a title. I don't think.
I mean, it just talks about the road access, it talks about the master plan roads,
Yeah, that's.
the road improvements, they gotta follow it, fire protection, you gotta follow it. Compliance with ordinances are required, so all of this is just kind of a summary thing, but we make it a policy. So it gives us a little more teeth in it and not search and you shall find.
I'm fine with it. It's what we had before and was thrown out.
Yeah. Can't tell.
Okay.
Yep, more information is better.
So, good with chapter title 11?
Well, this land, I'm sorry, the transportation map, have we discussed that, or is that part of Title 11, or?
Which one? The master plan road? No, I put it as a separate because it's not really a title issue. It's under our master road plan.
So let's address
Yeah.
Title 11.
Yeah, let's do
Okay, finish that. Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we're good with title 11 rewording and changes.
I'll second.
Did we put in there the changes that we switched ourselves?
Yes.
You get those documented? Do you
Yes.
have them or just?
I have them.
Yeah, and you're gonna get them to Jenna.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second? Did I get a second?
Yes, I seconded.
All right, Lee seconded. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
And by the way, the real power from planning commission and council is sitting right there.
Right.
So I cannot encourage you enough to pay attention when she gives you the minutes. Because if you make a motion ABC and she didn't hear it correctly, it'll be whatever she puts in the minutes.
We got it.
So that's super, super important. I've seen that over and over again. Okay, so the master road plans. There's two changes that I'm proposing. One is on the Wildcat area. And that's simply putting that on the map because it's already been built this way.
Right.
So our current master plan showed something different. So we're removing those little white where I whited it out and we're making it where they built that road. So we'll ask the engineers to add that to the master plan road. So this is just a housekeeping one on that one.
And that just brings in one access instead of two, so that's good.
Right.
Well, that's because this other second one to the right of Wildcat, you know, that, what do they call that, the Hayden Ranch Road?
Mhm.
You don't want that on.
Right, and that's what we're doing here. We're taking it off it.
They want Hayden Ranch to access through this Wildcat.
Right.
Right.
And that's why we did what we did there. I removed those accesses.
Well, yours looks good, ours is.
Oh, yeah, you've got it black and white. So
Yes.
I'm one with the easy one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Ours, you can't quite tell what it is.
And then the second one is the bubbling wells ones. And I'll explain you the reason for that. It's because we have somebody knocking on our door right now. The subdivision that is known as Canaan Ranch Estates. Canaan Mountain Estates, thank you, is they want to do their second phase of that. And it's out there. It's the last subdivision on the right before you get into Hilldale. And they have, right where we show it on the existing plan is where they want to tie it in. And that means that becomes left turn, right turn lanes. But that doesn't work. There's only one place for bubbling wells to tie in. And that is where I wish we could pull it up on the computer. And the reason for this is that we already have a subdivision in our way, and then we have this giant wash in our way. So there is only one location where bubbling wells can tie in. And I want to reiterate, if nobody ever comes and asks to develop this side of the road, this will never happen. Okay, this is just putting a dot on the map saying if that somebody wants to develop, and then that would involve the people that own property right there.
Just controlling the location.
We're controlling the location is all we're doing. And if they never come on this side of this, on the bubbling well side and does anything, it won't happen.
So the one that's gonna happen is the one to the south.
And that's the reason why it's on now is that we want to control. I already talked to that developer or that owner there that we needed to move that entrance in order to be able to tie it in. And our dream that lives in bubbling wells is that we would love to see it happen someday. Because once you have the left turn, right turn lane, then your risk of dying is a lot less. And I've already seen plenty I've seen dead people get hauled away from our bubbling wells access road and flown away.
It's happened quite a bit on Main Street, believe me.
Oh,
We've almost been in many accidents before that happened, so.
Yeah.
It's
That was a big deal.
it's a really big deal to have these left turn, right turn lanes. But, you know, I want it there, but I recognize that I'm not gonna spend that $500,000. So I'm cruising through Cedar Point sometimes. But when I turn into my, or I pull in like I'm turning into Cedar Point in the middle lane and let everybody pass me. And then I pull in behind them and I'll continue to do that. But that's really what you need to do to be safe when you turn left.
So the one thing I do want to say about any of our new proposed roads is the thing that we need to keep in mind as a town and community is we're making changes and proposed roads to our general road plan. we want to try to keep those on property section lines at all times. if we
Sure.
can. That
Right.
way, when the road happens, it's only part of this guy's and part of this guy's. We don't
Right.
just plow right through somebody's property with the whole road and this guy's stuck with the whole thing. So we want to keep that in mind that we plan ahead and say, okay, there's a section line here and a section line here. We want this main road going up through the section lines. That's the most logical choice and the most fair to the property owners. So we need to
Right.
think about that.
This particular one in Bubbling Wells is going down an easement that already exists. There's a 50-foot easement along all section lines and
So it's on the section line.
it's on a section line. So except the last little portion where it bends in. And again, these are, it's not a rocket science. It'll be right at this single spot. Like this could be turned left like it did on Main Street, or you could turn right when they actually built it.
So
But the location is this is
one going north right here, the way you've got it drawn now. The guy that owns that's Court Barlow.
Yes.
He's actually already put it in just how you've got it drawn currently.
Oh, did he?
He did that himself.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
And
That's
so this little black piece that's on his property where it's turned,
right.
he's already done that.
Well, from a financial point of view, just look what happened to Main Street. All of a sudden, they're knocking on his door and they're buying his property only for that reason, and it tripled or quadrupled in value. So it's not we're doing people a disservice. No, you're saying you're the one that's gonna make the money whenever that happens someday,
Well, the downside is to people like Jason, where,
that don't want the development.
well, that's gonna take up almost a half acre of his property when and if that road goes through there. Property that he spent a pretty good chunk of change for.
I don't disagree. But if it were my property and I got the opportunity to have a left turn, right turn lane, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Way safer for me,
Being that I
way
helped
safer.
get Main Street put in,
Right.
so that we could all be safe over there.
Right.
I agree with that point, but that's me.
I mean, I would gladly donate half acre to the cause. So I have a left turn, right turn lane that we can safely go in and out.
That's the whole point of getting this done before moving forward, so we don't have these kind of problems for citizens who want to move in our community. It's already there. When they purchase the property, they'll know that that's there.
Well, again, just so we're clear, this is just a proposed change
Suggestion.
on a map. It's not
So let's go to town.
road we're
engineers, right?
building.
Yes.
That's what.
However, it is a proposed, but how it works in real life is that when a developer comes in and wants to develop, then they now have to make that accommodation.
That's what I'm saying, but
Because
it's not a
we-
road that we're-
We made the spot,
Well, the town's not paying for the road either.
but they also know beforehand. So yeah, we're not paying for anything. So it may never happen on the Bubbling Well side, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna
Frank's got
happen.
Enough money, he can buy all that.
Yeah,
land and put
yeah.
it in.
Right, I wish.
Okay. And then was there one more, or was that it? On the,
Now, this roadmap,
So
that has to, assuming we
we make
forward it
we forward it,
through the town.
council approves it,
Okay,
and now we will inform the engineer that is already working on our master plan that,
that was.
and I'm
what I
sure,
thought.
I'm certain if he comes and says, by the way, you forgot this,
Uh,
you guys screwed up Royal, we'll never work at this
we
location.
need a bridge here.
But I walked it, so I know for sure that it will work. But in case that they will always, the engineers will say this will work or not work.
Sunrise Engineering already has this.
Oh, do they? So the last thing I'm just having on here is really nothing to do with the council or planning commission. It's just that right now, a master road plan is hidden behind, when you go online looking for it, it's not there. So I'm asking
It's just hard to find.
ask staff to make sure that we move this thing down so people can find it, and so they don't, I don't get hit with, I didn't know you had one.
Right.
But in reality, you cannot have a zoning and you cannot have a general plan without a road master plan. They go hand in hand.
Right.
So everybody that is in this business, we know there is a master road plan. It has to be here.
You're missing the one that goes over by the Deadlands that we were talking about, but that's already to Sunrise as well.
Right, and the only reason I brought these up because they're knocking on the door. And then the other one, I am hoping that they'll make the right decisions on wherever that one will go, but I haven't had any.
There's not supposed to be any entrance to 59 on that corner.
Well, I agree 100%.
Well, according to UDOT, according to the standards.
Right.
UDOT suggests in order to connect the two parts of our town right there, that eventually we build an overpass so that we have the connection there, but we don't have access to 59. That has to come in two different spots. One over by the tiny cabins and one clear down by the Citadel. So
Right.
that it's away from that spot.
Yeah, I can see Sentinel will be a great place because it's on top of the hill. You can see in every direction. Yeah, you got good views.
So
I assume that's where they're gonna put it. That'd be my guess.
that's what's kind of in the works with UDOT.
Right, right.
Okay, let's make a motion to amend the master road plan. Anybody?
Forrest wants to do it.
Oh, Horace, get on record.
I move that we, adopt the master road plan changes as we have discussed, tonight, and forward to town council.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Unanimous. Right on.
We already discussed the policies and we just got the street sections.
Wish there was a better way, but that's pretty much the best way, so sorry.
Now,
So-
we discussed the policies already.
Yep, we already discussed that. We jump started that one.
The other one's on.
I'm not gonna mention anybody, Jerry, that made us go there, but. So the last one is just these road standards. They're already existing, copied in from Hurricane.
We
And
make
the-
a motion on the development, the town
Yeah, somebody
development
make a
policy.
Oh, okay. I thought we did already,
Add
but,
a summary.
oh, okay.
We regress back.
We regressed.
I make a motion that we adopt the development and building policies to be handed out to the developers.
And I'd add, we put them on the website, make them
Good idea.
fairly easy to find if possible.
Okay. So there's two of you that made a motion. Do you want to second that?
I'll second both of them.
Okay, good. Any more discussion on that? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. That one carries unanimously as well. And we are down to,
Last item. The roads, typical road cross sections. That's all these things right here. I simply copied Hurricanes but I want you to pay attention to, go in the back. There's a residential standard rural road, cross section.
What's back? Got a page number? Help us out here, it's late.
It is 68.
I don't know if it has oh, I see. I don't know.
Which one are you looking at?
68 through,
So find the one that says rural road cross section.
81.
yeah.
And so,
68 through 81.
or 81.
so my suggestion is that when somebody comes in with we adopt these road standards. Somebody comes in with a rural road, a 5 acre or 10 acre, whatever it is, then this is the standard right here.
So we don't have this.
Am I-
We don't have this already.
No, that's what was weird. I thought for sure that all we would have was rural road standards. But Hurricane has them and we don't.
yeah.
So you'll see here, for example, now it just says travel lane. And then it has a gravel shoulder and then it has a borrow ditch on the side. And one of the problems we have right now is that we have had roads that are designed where we just have the road and immediately next to it, we have the barges, like here in Apple Valley. And it is very unsafe in case somebody doesn't pay attention for a second. The next thing you're in the bar ditch and you're rolling.
Right.
So that's the reason why the rural roads here, they have this safety section of, 4 or 5 feet, whatever it is.
Somebody in my household ended up in the ditch one wintry.
Right.
Yeah.
So this way that you rumble before you roll. So it just, and it's actually road standards, or what we have done here is absolutely not acceptable and according to road standards. So if we just adopt all those, this gives us another tool to use when a subdivision comes in and say, you're gonna use this road.
Gotcha. Sounds good to me.
There's a good road, there's nothing wrong with this.
Nothing wrong with standards. Richard, your turn.
For which one?
So just adopt the number 6, We're adopting the rural road standards from Hurricane City.
We're adopting the rule.
All the standards, all the road standards. Yeah, all the road standards.
I'll make sure I look at it before I see
Good idea.
It says in here
I-
that
I'm looking for
Richard's
rural
doing
ones.
it all now.
No.
Well, it just, when somebody comes in for a preliminary plat, we just need to pay attention, and we never have. We don't discuss what type of road at all, and it's just need to be, but it will be discussed now. We'll bring it forward and say, you know, this will be according to our design standards.
Or we do discuss it, we decide, oh, it's substandard, but that's okay.
Well, that's your choice.
Well, that wasn't my choice.
That's how it's always been.
Yeah, that's how it was.
That's always been.
Number 6. So I'd make a motion that we adopt the typical street cross sections and road design standards provided by Jones and DeMille Engineering from Hurricane City.
I second that motion.
Any more discussion on that
We
one?
need to add and send it to town council, don't we?
That's,
Send it
all
forward.
That you recommend approval.
Right.
right. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried unanimously.
So tired.
I don't think I did, did I?
No,
I'm
I
looking for
didn't.
one,
Jerry says she did.
I'm looking for one more motion.
I motion that we close this meeting tonight,
Adjourn.
adjourn this meeting.
Please second that. Any more discussion? Those in favor say aye. We are out of here.
Thank you for all your